Hey everybody, welcome back to another all-new X's for Show, your premier media response hub. I'm Nico. You can catch me at Nico Action. That's NicoAction.
And I'm TK. You can find me at TK Elemental.
That makes me Kevo, and you can find me at Kevo Rayleigh. That's KevoReally. And you can find us, as always, on all socials at X's for Show.
And do we have an episode for you? But it starts like all TV roundups with a large question. That's right, we are bringing you the X's for Show big question this week. And this week's big question brought to you by superfan Nico J Action. Thanks for writing in, Nico. We love you. We think you're wonderful. And Nico J Action wants to know, what current Star Trek ship would you want to serve on? Great question, Nico J Action. I think you're quite a guy here. Number one super fan. Best. So, I think I just want to say, if I can serve anywhere and we're using meta reality rules, I'm serving on lower decks because I would want the ability to be cut in half and be fine. But otherwise, I love the retro chic. Everybody breaks that into Gilbert and Sullivan as necessary of Classic Enterprise over in Strange New Worlds. It's a beautiful place.
New Classic Enterprise. New Classic.
Options are limited. You don't get to pick two. You said the Cerritos. You're serving on the Cerritos.
Well, Cerritos.
I think you would fit in very well with the lower decks crew. In that, I think your vibe is very much, I'm an ensign and I should be running this ship. And I think, my dream for lower decks is that they all graduate together and are frighteningly in leadership positions.
Oh, I'm in.
I sort of predict Boimler as captain with Mariner as first officer.
Yeah, I could see it. Even though Mariner, I want to say first officer, she feels very much like she can never go there because she needs the freedom to do really stupid shit that first officers do against captain's orders.
Oh my god, security officer, that'd be terrifying.
Rikerisms, as we should know them.
Exactly. She needs Rikerisms.
Riker.
Kevo, what's yours?
It's a hard one. Cerritos is definitely a good one. I think I want to go with Disco. It is one of the only shows that I feel like I got in on from not really the ground up, but kind of close enough, really. I love the spinny bits. I love the modern detached nacelles. That's always pretty cool too. But whether it's classic or new one, I like Disco.
Disco never died.
I would say future Disco, not past Disco. No, thank you. But setting that aside, I'm gonna go with. If we're talking shows, like main ship shows, it's the new Enterprise captain by 7 of 9. If we're talking any ship on the new shows, it's Voyager J from the Future Federation on Disco.
Which I think we should just call Joyager.
Okay.
Yeah, I do love Joyager. What really I didn't think about until what is now my third watch of that episode, they don't know about Janeway's Voyager because they're coming. So, and it's really funny because they do the math and I'm like, you're wrong because, but they had never seen a Voyager. The Voyager is the first Voyager and that's 100+ years after they all disappeared.
Like 100 and almost 120, 110.
Right.
That's some sexy space math.
When Tilly's like, that's 10 generations of evolution. She doesn't even know about the first Voyager.
She just is thinking that's 10 evolutions of any ship. She's not even aware of the original. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So that blew my mind a little bit. But anyway, I would always want to serve on a Voyager and take me to the far future. Even though Star Trek is really proving right now that it's always somebody's future. It's always the far future to someone. Well, and we can just keep going with this shit until it's like Dune and we're 10,000 years in the future.
I also had up. I already had this one up to reference
Yeah.
your other choice. But so here's my question: it doesn't bother you that this was the Titan renamed an
It bothers me
Enterprise?
to such a degree my teeth itched at the end of this series. It bothers me so much. I am not an Enterprise queen. I don't care
No.
about the Enterprise. I love the Enterprise D because it was my first Enterprise. But then I am the type of...
Strangely past tense.
Yes.
Enterprised.
Oh,
Enterprise Ed. Yes, I get it.
like a
As
verb.
opposed to an enterprisee or his Middle Eastern cousin, enterprisef.
Enterprise of
Or Enterprise.
Enterprise G. I was so tickled by the Enterprise E and think it's iconic in every way. Really think it's important. Really think the fact that it was gone too soon is a huge loss. I know a lot of people think the Enterprise E is pretty stupid and really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are pretty stupid too, so I think it balances out.
There you go. So it does bother me that the Titan became the Enterprise out of nowhere. Really, at that point, it's about serving under Captain 7 of 9.
Yeah.
That's
Would a different rename have bothered you less? Like when they were like, "Oh, we renamed it." I thought it was going to be the Picard, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's so cute." And then
Yes.
that wraps up the TV show. But
They wanted
I
it
feel
to
like
make sense. Yeah. Well,
I feel like
think-
renaming it to the flagship though, like this
they
like
had
naming
two
a used
choices.
car Air Force One.
One choice, Captain 7, you are the future.
Can you please call her by her real name, Fraction 7 of 9?
Captain of 9.
Captain of 9. You are the future of the Enterprise. You will pilot our new captain our new flagship, the actual new Enterprise that we just built. Or Captain of 9. What?
Well, I just want to say it's Picard's ship, so we should be pronouncing it the Entreprise.
Enterprise.
I'm not doing more Enterprise pronunciations with you. Don't keep coming up with these.
No.
Had they come to her and been like, the Titan has been through so much. We want to honor your mentor, Jean-Luc Picard. You will be piloting.
Fuck my Janeway, right?
I mean, that's another, like the lack of Janeway in all 3 seasons of Picard is, to quote Leslie Knope, a crime on par with human trafficking.
Wasn't she off limits? Wasn't Olive Boy off limits for the most part because of, I don't know, XYZ? We always have
Because
plans,
there are
everything.
always reasons in the Delta Quadrant. For whatever
Only
reason, Delta Burke has final say
Delta Burke
over
quadrant.
everything that happens on Voyager.
I have heard these stirrings and rumors about Voyager stuff being offline, but for one thing, we do get Tuvok. We should be getting 2 Vix, but apparently the world is just unjust.
Listen, until we can get 3 Vok, I'll settle for 2 Vix.
I prefer the Tuvok math to the Enterprise pronunciation. So if you've got those, keep coming. It seems like Kate Mulgrew would have been, after post Orange is the New Black, Kate Mulgrew would have been in such a position to be Admiral Janeway on screen. I know she's not gonna be doing action scenes with that group, though I do feel like if by the way, did anybody see that beach picture of Patrick Stewart?
No, is it recent? I'll
Yes,
look it up.
it is like this month.
Well, I just want to say, I'm doing a Voyager rewatch because my husband is a brilliant, beautiful man.
Yes.
He's sexy. And he convinced me to do a Voyager rewatch with him a couple of years ago. We fell off. We resumed. And Janeway has more capability in one little pinky than Kirk has in his whole overswollen penis.
This is why she's my favorite captain.
I love Janeway, but I kind of hate her show. And, like, I don't hate her crew. I don't hate their mission.
Yeah.
But I feel like Disco did Voyager better.
This is it. It does it in reverse because now they're in their Delta Quadrant, which is the future. They're never going back, and they're never going back. That's the
That
thing.
is in fact the night that the lights went out in the Alpha Quadrant. Got it.
Nailed it. If Voyager were happening now, they would have been back after season 2 and have a new mission in season. Yeah,
for the jump to Netflix.
100%. You are completely correct. It was a completely different era of sci-fi.
Right.
And I was saying this to Nico. It was basically DS9 and Voyager were literal polar opposites. DS9 was imagine all the wacky adventures you could get in stuck stationary in known space. Voyager is imagine all the wacky hijinks you can get into lost in unknown space. Literally opposites. And then can't change their status quo because that is what the base premise is.
And Deep Space Nine says this is supposed to be happening. They're not supposed to get off the space station. Like, the longer they stay, the better things are going.
This is normal.
The really bad season finale is the one where they have to exit the space station.
And I need to get further off topic by far. Think about the relationship, the parallels between Janeway and Chakotay versus between Sisko and Kira.
Kira.
They're both freedom fighters. They're both people who believe in an unseen,
who are deeply attached to their religion.
An unwinnable cause. Like look, everybody knows my favorite alien in the entirety of Star Trek is a hot, sexy male Bajoran. Hey, what's up? But I just can't see the Bajorans winning against the Cardassians without the interference of the Federation, which thank God, and thank all the gods, thank the prophets, right? But like Chakotay, who is the single sexiest person to ever wear a Starfleet uniform, like bar none.
The character.
Because the actor being anti-strike is bumming me out. But yeah, that parallel really reinforces what you're saying about the duality and sort of then the balance of how Star Trek, the films, did nothing but stroke the egos of the actors, where Star Trek The Next Generation stroked the ego of the franchise.
Minus First Contact.
Oh, I mean the TOS movies.
Oh.
Yeah, because they ran parallel to... they ran
TNG.
Parallel to the TNG series. Wow, what a great point. Gosh, I've never liked Voyager more. And so much of it is because not just is Chakotay a very attractive man, but I really understand the ways they're trying to express a duality of leadership and office. Because, when you think about B'Elanna is such a perfectly torn person who B'Elanna is the perfect Starfleet officer. But she's Maquis. I mean, like...
She's the quintessential Starfleet officer. She is not the ideal
She's
Starfleet
no different
officer.
than Ro. She's no different than a parrot.
She is, I think, even specifically the quintessential Starfleet orphan, which is something you see a lot.
There it is.
Even Uhura, who is a human from Earth, is an example of a Starfleet orphan.
Heavy way to keep us connected.
I was going to say pin that because it does need to come back when we talk about the finale and keep us connected as a version of that. Anyway, to tie it all together, it's one thing. It's bonkers that ultimately, for the most part, Janeway aligns with her Maquis crew and is sort of like, you're not legally allowed to do this, but I love you all and get you, and I'm going to fix it when we get home. Where Sisko is constantly like, please stop letting Bajorans do suicide bombings. It's difficult for me to deal with my higher ups.
But I'd love to point out that this is another way in which it is juxtaposed, because one of the things I was thinking about when you were talking about Chakotay versus Kira and...
hottest sex of all time.
Oh my God, I know. But Kira continuing to be aggressively Bajoran freedom fighter, whereas at least the point that we are at in Voyager,
no, they drop.
All the Maquis stuff kind of drops, and the thing that benefits Janeway is her attitude kind of just feels like, Well, the number of Starfleet officers outnumbers the number of Maquis, and none of that crap really matters
I
out
was gonna say,
here.
the big
All of
thing
their
is-
Maquis are gone.
The big thing
So,
is none of it matters. If they're
none
gonna get
of it
home,
matters out here, and we
Right.
win.
right?
I need to make a point really quick. Tori Amos would be a human in the Federation who has intense feelings about the Bajorans and writes whole albums about it.
She wouldn't be a
but the
Bajoran.
feelings are-
She would be.
I'm saying she'd be human, but she'd be
Hey.
writing Bajoran songs.
the feelings are somewhat nonsense because she's so completely divorced from the problem.
I feel like she'd actually be. God, why can't I name what Deanna
the
is?
Troyes. Yeah, she'd be a Beta Z.
Beta
Beta
Z.
Z. She's a
You're
Beta
right.
Z.
She would
100%.
be. She's a horny Beta Z who just shows
Yeah.
up to play guitar songs at 10 forward, or piano songs at 10 forward, and straddle the piano.
Yeah.
If they made Voyager now,
lithium
they would
spill.
be home, and then it would be the season 3 conflict would be the Maquis or Maquis again, but they love the crew that they served with through the only thing. They are the only people who understand. There's nobody else who has done this, so they are their only family that understands.
And
You
then
know,
we would have.
Janeway has lost Mark. Chakotay has who the fuck knows what. But they're still Maquis when they get home. The fact that
Yeah.
it's 7 years, they're just never going home and being Maquis again. And I don't think we
Yeah,
ever get
no
a
way.
good. We never find out really how the Maquis kind of dissipate by Picard season 1.
I just want to point out that the thing that we're talking about is that these shows from the 90s still have so much potentiality.
Well, this is all back to your thing of love Janeway, do not like her show.
Yeah.
And I think you would like her show if they made it today. I think the problem is it extends so many fine but sort of dumb ideas in that way that shows just did when they were episodic primarily.
And I just want to say that, like, I feel like Chakotay is such a unique character. Chakotay, my precious Kira Reese, my favorite character in all of Star Trek ever. That, like, specific brand of, like, I'm a maverick first mate, and you never know what you're gonna get with me because my past is complicated, right? That is such a unique character. If we gave it a name, Star Trek could copyright it and, like, trademark it, and it's a vibe that's theirs. I feel like nobody does bitchy, militant, sexually potent first mates like Star Trek does since day one. Hey, Leonard Nimoy, not my cup of tea, but every guy who's played Spock since is very handsome. So,
and I think the boomers,
they get Leonard.
they liked Leonard. I mean, they created an entire new genre of porn fiction to have
For all
Leonard fuck.
For all my
It's-
Long Islanders, who doesn't love a Stu Leonards?
And that's what's so funny to me is I saw something. Now I'm remembering what it was. It was a Doctor Who broadcast that I didn't really want to watch. And they were talking about.
That's like 25% of your life, poor Kevo.
They were talking about the upcoming Shooty Gatwa stuff, and somebody mentioned how Shooty was chosen because he's sexy for the young girls. And I'm like, I mean, to a degree, I guess, but he's not like fucking Chris Hemsworth. Let's calm down. And I'm thinking about the notion that Shatner was never supposed to be sexy or anything. And like, no, they didn't have him fighting Gorn shirtless, or they didn't have Leonard Nimoy take his shirt off for nothing. I feel like the standards for sex and like what was sexy were different in
Yeah,
1968.
He's the Tom Jones of space.
around.
Like, he was supposed to be sexy.
Not the
But, like-
librettist for the Fantastics who we
Yeah,
tragically lost.
nobody-
After. I care.
I was
I
very
care.
confused yesterday.
Devastating.
What was his name again? I forget what we were talking about.
Tom Jones.
Tom Jones, yeah. I
It's not
remember the
unusual
Fantastics
to
part.
forget.
It's not
You
unusual.
tried to remember.
I tried to remember. As I pointed out, it's really ironic that he died in August. And if you get that joke, like and subscribe.
But yes, you are right. Both men were supposed to be sexy. Yes, we kind of think of them as dipshits now. Not Nimoy. It's really just Shatner.
But yeah, and we don't think of necessarily the performances, the appeal, the presentation from TOS are
But,
sexy
like,
by modern standards.
Shatner kissing Ahura is to me remains a sexy moment and hugely important because it was a very early, if not the first, example of an interracial kiss. But that's it. That's kind of the point. He was sexy, and him being a sex symbol, kissing a gorgeous, kind of frankly much sexier than him,
Yes.
but in cultural vernacular, so insanely undervalued woman, was meant to be this like controversially sexy moment.
So I think what we're saying is Star Trek has always been sexy.
Yes.
And
STHABS.
Frankly,
Schabs.
sexiest thing about Shatner was the moment he wrestled that Gorn.
Thank God.
And speaking of the Gorn, never been sexier to me, frankly. Let's talk about the Strange New World season finale.
I want to start with one thing about
so
this.
sexy.
Get it, baby.
Hey, baby.
That literal baby. Don't get it. You're a baby.
It's like literally over there on the wall, so I could go over and get it. But there's literally no franchise on Earth I love more than Alien. Every year on my birthday, I watch Alien because there is literally no other way I want to spend my birthday than sitting down with Alien, preferably the Ridley Scott director's cut. I know it's like masturbatorily longer, but it's exquisite. And Strange New Worlds as a series, along with X-Men, along with every version of Star Trek to some extent, even the precious of my Stargate, borrow elements from a form of horror that in many ways kind of borrows from classic Victorian horror. You know, when I talk about being in love with Victorian carnivals, I don't expect that everybody understands that I'm referring to classically German Luna Parks, but like there is a meaning to these things. And something that Alien does really beautifully is it ties into sort of the Edgar Allan Poe of horror. It ties into the idea that you are chased down by your nightmares. This episode was exquisite for exploring the quality of what we do and don't understand. Now, the only thing that I'm going to ding this episode...
Oh no, you froze on mine, so I have no idea what you're saying.
Hey, I think we're back.
There we go.
Hey, all right.
Hey! So one of the things that I try to think about when I think about the quality of horror is I try to imagine the experience for someone who is perhaps hard of hearing or perhaps profoundly visually impaired. Something I know that I'm legally blind. Like of all of the, invisible disabilities that I do and don't talk about, my legal blindness is not one that comes up, but like my contacts are literally multiple contacts fused together. And like, I know what it's like to be scared that, you're not going to be able to experience the world for fear of something. And the long dark shots, the long dead silences, it's too many lack of sensory experiences in two common experiential ways.
The Scottishness of it all.
Oh my God. Finally a Scotty I can love. My least favorite, I literally booed the whole episode because my least favorite character from the original series by a country and city mile, right? Like a 3-mile island mile, right? Which you don't want to go into. It's radioactive. Don't go there. But This was the first time I was like, yo, Scotty, cool guy. Hang out with me.
Oh no, okay. Yeah, we do hate Kelvin Scotty. No, we like original Scotty. He's good. He's a sweet man.
He's actually my least favorite character. Like I genuinely want to hold his head underwater.
It must be a Frasier character, weirdly. Who? Oh, the actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As we all saw in Trekkies. No,
I have to get there.
Kidding
I just became a real Trekkie this year, so if you haven't seen it, now it's on you.
Yeah, we're gonna watch Trekkies. James Doonan
yes,
a phenomenal story about. Well, it's weird. I wish Jake was here. He tells a phenomenal story about connecting with a Star Trek fan. And it just involves something that has now become a joke for Jake. I'm not doing this. Anyway, he's great. I was like, this is the stupidest inside joke to try and bring the audience in on. I love you all. James Doonan, good guy, not Scottish, probably not a good way to start things. Representation matters, people. Even
They
for the
didn't know
Scots.
back then.
No,
They
we have no
really didn't
idea.
know
We
back
still don't, we don't
then.
know today.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
why it was so important that Nana Visitor was cast, because she is openly a Bajoran American.
Get
and
out of here. I wanna smack
She
you.
is openly a Nana visitor, so
She do be visiting them nanas. So this we like Scottish Scotty. Taking it back. Yeah. You are right in that Star Trek has done Alien before. First thing that comes to mind is my favorite aliens in this franchise that I just want back now, Species 8472. That is you guys aren't there for Voyager.
I mean, I've seen it.
Okay.
I never read about them, so you're fine.
Yeah. Species 8472 is Voyager's alien moment.
Like it's not named almost identically like Planet 426.
Yeah, exactly. And we've had other ones, and I love that you brought up the Brood for the X-Men. It really is a common thing. If aliens are going to be in the mix, then we're going to do a xenomorph reference. Oh, God, they're gorgeous.
Where are all my xenomorphs?
But the Gorn have a chance uniquely to be the Federation's xenomorphs. And
Yes.
we're in another weird postmodern Star Trek moment where we have seen the Gorn already, and it's a dude in a creature from the Black Lagoon rubber suit and a weird skirt tunic belted number, bipedal. And that has even been brought into Lower Decks, where we've seen them get married. So I don't know what we're talking about here. Are these the Gorn Ogla? Like, are these another sect? Are these the aquatic Xindi of the Gorn? I don't know, but I once they force it on you so many times, you really do just learn to embrace the way that this era is like, no, the thing was obviously dumb from the 60s. We will be redoing it, and we haven't decided if it is a time travel retcon or if it is just information that you didn't have. Can you imagine him fighting one of these things?
I want to know what Mrs. Havisham he has running around behind him, that his goddamned girlfriend survived this shit and she's just infected with their babies. So one of the things that I do appreciate is she's not having like another man's, like she's not having his babies, you know what I mean? His name isn't Dave. He doesn't serve on another starship.
Krahach the Gorn is the leader of the Gorn, and now she's having Krahach the Gorn's prince baby. Like,
you're wearing my shirt, Quahorth.
Gong.
So, yeah, I just, one of the things that this show is doing is that it's subverting a lot of the problematic sexual exploits that Kirk was renowned for.
Yeah.
It's creating context for these in ways that are like kind of genuinely likable. Something that I appreciate is that the Gorn are clearly showing a manifestation of intelligence. I don't think it's just that it ran away because she's pregnant, but oh, so cute. But rather, it's an exploration of the emergence of intelligence of species. It recognizes one of its own and someone that isn't theirs. And sure, that's sensory-based. But that's something that we forget. These animals are animals like on sense. I have a dog that is it time to show pictures of my dog? Oh, no.
Send them to Kevo. They're not going to appear on your screen.
I was going to say, if you want them, you need to send them to me.
This is my boy.
That's
my boy,
Bucky.
right? That's my Bucky. That's my dog. And like, I love my dog. But do I think that when I come home, Bucky's like, oh, hey, Sneeko, he's here? No, I think he goes, that smell. It's a person that hands me bacon. And like, that's what he feels. It's like, we're all animals. I feel that way when I recognize the smells of people I love, even if that's not the way I interpret it because I'm a human. But that's kind of what I'm saying. Humans interpret smells the same way. But I smell my mom's perfect roux-based cream sauce. Oh my God, that's it. My day is made. It's comfort. I do that. It's winter and I just came in from shoveling and I'm 14 years old and she has it sitting on the stove for me. And like, that was sort of why I so humanized the Gorn in this moment. Yes, they were reacting to the fact that she's carrying a Gorn baby, but they're reacting in a way that humans react. You know, I think about a pop-up video fact that is lions react aggressively, not attackingly, but like aggressively to the scent of women menstruating. So the lion in the Like a Virgin video kept putting its snout in Madonna's Like a Prayer. And that sticks with me because we're talking about animals reacting to the expression of human existence. If you would think a tiger isn't just a fucking beast, then you shouldn't think the Gorn are just beasts. And that's sort of what this episode did for me in a way that so little Star Trek has sought to do in the last decade. It isn't since they taught me that Klingons are real people, like I didn't already know, that I felt like Star Trek was trying so hard to make me see a different side of a species.
Well, we're due for another one of these, I think. Star Trek is always doing these. I do think we circled all the way back at the start of Discovery, and we're like, Klingons, actual people like us, or just walking time bombs? Let's explore for a while.
Like they were all Menendez brothers.
Truly just murder bots here.
Do you think that's maybe half the reason they were made to look so distinctively different? Not just to give them a unique modern look, but so they could be like, hey, these extra warrior Klingons are not going to remind you of Worf, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Ooh, distance
enjoy
from
the ride.
Worf.
Yes, Kevo, I do think,
Great call.
I do think that the more ridged and discolored you are, the more you might murder was what they were going for. I think it gets a little silly.
The blue of it, the purple of it, the gray of it.
And also just because we know what's going to happen. I don't think I knew specifically that we would go all the way to Klingon injected into human via post-hypnotic suggestion, featuring female on male rape for baby trapping.
We're going to do a whole broadcast leading into Discovery Season 5 to talk about all that nonsense.
There's a lot we'll get into. I really think Tyler will need to be a huge part of the Giorgio movie, the Section 31 Giorgio movie.
You know, I think...
No, go.
I think, you know, when we're talking about Ash, you know, he wants to be the very best.
God damn it, I can't believe I said
No, I'm sorry. No, let me take that back. Ash as a character is sort of defined by his boomstick.
I don't know what that means because I've never seen those films. So
oh my God,
that is up a picture of Sam and enjoy that for myself.
Paramount,
no interest.
If you are gonna try and say for a single second that this isn't a man who grew that mustache for the rides, for men specifically, I don't believe you. I don't accept it. That is a gay man.
This stash does give me Pan vibes, though.
Sure.
I know a certain pansexual man who grew it once, and it looked really good on him.
I perhaps, when I look at this mustache, can feel my manliness accelerate. I'm not even sure how to explain it. I become more sexually potent looking at this mustache.
And look at it holding a... I thought it was a gun, but like imagine that.
Let me see if I can holding a loot, and it would be more masculine.
Let me see if I can find a commando image of him.
So
anyway,
the Gorn, you know, Nico, I think you covered a lot of it. The whole point of this is doing a thing that we've been doing in Star Trek since the 60s, which is how like us is the alien. How much are we gonna do this dance with the alien? It's interesting with the Gorn because I think Alien, the film franchise, really has always gone the route of the alien is not sentient. It doesn't have feelings. We don't need to respect it. It's just going to kill us. And this particular storyline for Star Trek is it's definitely going to kill us, but it also is a feeling, thinking creature. And that might be their one big problem, is that usually when they discover it's a thinking, feeling creature, somehow it stops killing them. And I think the Gorn are never going to stop.
I only want to jump in and correct one word on it, which is specifically, they've never said feeling. I definitely
think they will be feeling.
I don't know, because we haven't gotten anything yet. I'm not saying no, and I definitely hear what you're saying, where the minute that we try to develop any alien antagonist species for Star Trek, they tend to then become super feely.
Yeah.
But I wonder if this is more an attempt to reconcile the idea that the Gorn can be warp-capable species and so warlike and have a society, but still be wild animals somehow. Like, this isn't even Pakled. Pakled's developed language, clearly developed cities at some point. Like, and even if they created a lot of that, copying other civilizations that came to them,
Lady Gaga's a base level fine doing that.
There's a base level intelligence and like sentience there. Yes. And I do feel like this is definitely 100% trying to give and justify and sort of like, by modern standards, like, say, sure, this is how Gorn can be intelligent. I only am curious to see if we will see them as feeling creatures, or if this is an attempt to try and give us an antagonist that we don't need to worry about the feelings of. If they will simply be warlike, no compromising, because that could still be something, and that is a different morality that we have to deal with. Do we still, as people who are also intelligent and have the capability for that reason and compassion, are we obligated not to simply obliterate this species that we now know is intelligent, only wants to kill us, will never compromise? Do we still have to be, have the moral high ground? Show contributor Nathan was talking on Twitter the other day about how, are Starfleet really the good guys? And I have to assume he was a little bit talking about the situation we find ourselves in at the end of the episode, where do we simply smash the crap out of the Gorn, or are we worried about them being an intelligent species? And I'm not sure what direction they're planning to zig or zag.
I see what you're saying. I think you very well might be correct in that they're actually going to end up not really being feeling. I mean, we saw one in a temperature suit because they're cold-blooded. So we know they are capable of, even if it's just sort of assimilation of technology, we know that in some way they're that intelligent.
They can adapt it for themselves. Yep.
And it seems like we're doing a multi-stage growth where the babies are really xenomorph, and then the adults maybe graduate to more thinky, but maybe not more feely. Genuinely, I don't know what they're going to do about the TOS Gorn.
Well, that's even what I want to bring up. I think something that is an absolute reality about the nature of evolved fiction. And by evolved, I don't necessarily mean the quality of the fiction has improved, though certainly with Star Trek, that's an unavoidability. Something that stands out to me as remarkable is the way I suddenly have a new appreciation for the Gorn because they look different than they once did. The reality of understanding that the creative team had to say, hey, this is still available, grab it, work on it, evolve it, redefine it. It gives it a character that I'm just not used to the Gorn having. So by virtue of simply giving the Gorn like their 5th or 6th appearance ever, because that's all it is, the Gorn suddenly, by having visual dynamic that they never had before, feels like so much more than they ever once did. And for that reason, I am very grateful for Strange New Worlds taking what is basically the grown-up version of Nakamama and transforming it into a realized version of something that could eat Ripley.
But I do think the thing we are running into always is, but we saw the dude from TOS, and every other not every other, but most other TOS things that we see now, there is some explanation for why they're better, or we've seen the evolution over time. You know, I just, the thing that I've struggled with in this era is so much stuff being different and better because the technology is just better for us to produce the show. And then what is the production staff going to do? This is the question I asked at the beginning. Is this a time travel shenanigan? And that's why, you know, the fact that Discovery is so much more technologically advanced turns out to be because it was a secret intelligence project, and the fact that we never see that again is because it goes into the future, and Starfleet is never to speak of it again. So they're just stuck with shittier technology until we get to a future where, in the production staff's time, we can conceive of video calls.
And they're really good at like putting in little tips and touches. Like they give a reason. I think it's at the end of Discovery season 2 as to why they don't have holograms on the Enterprise, because they gum up the systems and Pike doesn't like them. So Unachin says at the very end, "Don't worry, we're never going to have holograms on the Enterprise ever again." But it's really a lot harder to clean up something like this with one line.
I don't mean to be tempting, like Luke Skywalker in a Jedi training camp, but that's actually one of the reasons that I do want to kind of compare this to Star Trek and Star Wars. Compare Star Trek to Star Wars, right? Because one of the things is midichlorians actually existed in the novels since the 80s, if not the 70s. But the reality is, while things like blood tests and testing for things like markers certainly did exist at one point, the general public wasn't super aware of them. They weren't intimately familiar with them. There weren't things like Jerry Orbach and Chris Noth telling you that we got the DNA so we can do the test. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a thing. So this idea
that was real science back then, when being a science fiction nerd meant that you kind of knew more about science, and a lot of your public wouldn't. And a lot of your public wouldn't go see science fiction films because those were just for other science nerds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, while midichlorians got a lot of shit in the 90s, it's because the 90s understood DNA forensics in a way that the 70s didn't. So while people understood DNA forensics in the 70s, the general people did not. And something that I think that this is reflective of is an understanding of an evolution of self, of the casual Star Trek watcher, whether it's because the definition of the casual Star Trek watcher has evolved, or because the casual Star Trek watcher themselves has, I don't know, that to me looks like Wilma Flintstone going out and having a sexy time.
Yes.
Like, she's hot, but
I want to bring up this as well to discuss the Enterprise appearance.
I haven't looked at that since I'm 17 years old. Oh, Jesus Christ.
They tried, man.
I don't think it looks heinously terrible for what season was this?
2, I think. I think this was 2.
So
and
like
this
2002,
is that
2003.
evolution I'm talking about. Like, if what Strange New Worlds was giving us was the next step after this in terms of what production is capable of, then we're talking in the 60s, they look like that. And obviously it's silly, but you can see all the ways in which this is not, turns out there are 2 different kinds of Gorn. This is just better production. Strange New Worlds is kind of telling us, turns out there's at least 2 different kinds of Gorn.
And that's even the thing I want to say. If it wasn't for this guy who
Yeah.
does look like an adult and so severely different version from this Gorn,
Right.
I do think there's something to be said for that. But
Yeah.
I also, guys, do you remember back in the day when like they could just literally redesign this guy to look more like this guy between seasons, and you didn't have 3.4 million people on the internet being like, that's fucking terrible, cancel the show. Like, and it was
Kevo-
just something they did all
Kevo,
the time. But they still did it, and now they
no,
won't.
no. I need to point out you were the person who there is. If I'm making a big joke about what a big Alien fan I am, but like, I'm a Golden Girls fan, and you were the person who pointed out to me. You're like, Bear, did you ever notice that they're different Big Daddies? You were the person that was like, did you ever notice Carol is recast on Friends? You were the person that was like, did you ever notice how many Rebeccas there are? Did you ever like? There really is a quality of revamp between seasons that the average human didn't notice once upon a time. And I'm only being careful to say the average human because I'm sure in all of our discussion of being able to smell it's different, someone caught it. But like, I
But
don't know.
they knew that it was just production did more.
Okay,
And they knew that it was always going to
Ooh.
just be that.
I
That's
know.
cool.
that's like Shag Disneyland 60th. Hot.
Yeah.
The
That's-
StarTrek.com has a whole bunch of these really bizarrely beautiful, like every single episode has one. Here's a picture of La'an and Kirk
Oh my
from
God.
Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like every episode, they've got all these. It's hilarious how much effort they are putting into this. Check it out. Check it out. Here's Cybok for you in that style from the end of Strange New Worlds season 1. What? Yeah, no, it's crazy. Anyway,
Back in
Gorn.
the day, we knew that basically nothing was getting a retcon revamp, was not getting, turns out there's a reason. It was
Yep.
just, we all knew production wanted to do better. It really is Discovery where it starts, because no, I'm not watching a 2017 production team try and recreate the TOS technology. And like Kevo, I think you suggested an episode in which they kind of flash over to a TOS style for Strange New
Yes.
Worlds. And like that, yes, I do want to see essentially like a Mirrorverse type episode where the specifically DS9 Mirrorverse episode where they flip and what you're looking at is an aping of the style, but that wouldn't have worked as a value proposition for Discovery.
Okay. Can I ask an awful
No.
question?
Yeah.
Can we just see a Mirrorverse where they all work together on a co-op marijuana farm?
Oh my god, a more peaceful Mirrorverse would be so fascinating. Oh my god.
My dream is for them to establish the idea that the Mirrorverse actually is not an alternate timeline where things went different. It is always on a quantum level, a reflection.
Yes.
What
And
an attractive thing to
it's
say.
and it's
Yeah.
always derivative. They're not the Prime Universe, and that sucks for them.
No. But what are you gonna do?
What you are essentially looking at is a quantum filter that everything that happens in the main universe is specifically reflected to be difficult in some way, made essentially worse, made to be more painful from a human experience level in the Mirrorverse. And I think if you did a real explanation like that, you could then do another mirror universe in which everything is so chill and nice that like the Federation never actually got anywhere because conflict didn't lead to any kind of space race, and they have incredibly advanced Terran technology.
From your mirror universe.
But they never really got off the ground. Anyway, I do want the co-op marijuana farm Mirrorverse. I love that idea.
Seth Rogen would make a great Starfleet captain. Guys, just do the thing already. Move.
I mean,
the
he's a
shit.
Tellarite. Let's not even pretend.
Seth Rogen is happy with the decision Seth Rogen has made.
I love this. I'm obsessed with this. But
Tellarites are the best.
I'm always now on this kind of like, and this is something we talked about this the last Star Trek episode. Like, are we gonna do some big second temporal Cold War that's gonna start explaining a lot of stuff that has to be different? It's not just that the eugenics wars now have to be significantly later,
like 100 years
at minimum. That also means First Contact has to be significantly later, which now would kind of mean that the relationships would be different, because, you know, it takes a while for the Vulcans and the Earthlings to come together.
How am I supposed to believe that Donna is in both First Contact and the original Broadway cast of Curtains?
Who?
Donna Murphy?
Oh,
No.
Right, because she insurrected.
So hard.
So hard. So
So-
much insurrected.
I am just kind of constantly like,
happy to say me.
what are we just rolling with? What has not time travel based retcon that it's simply you never knew, but there actually are multiple types of Gorn? And then what are we just gonna leave? What are we just gonna say? You know, the interfaces all look better here than TNG's interfaces do, and we're not saying this is a different timeline. We're just going with it. We're just rolling with it.
I don't want to make us sound so old that we remember when Lady Footlocker was new, but I really want to ask you guys a question. Was iTunes all that different from Kazaa? Was the interface really that different that it ultimately was so shocking? Is every Facebook layout change so horrible that we just can't live with it? Is every time Zac Efron comes back with a new chin, do we really need to talk about it, or can he just be a beautiful man? You know,
I think go.
I just think my point is, like, very few things age this gracefully. Like, we are definitely looking at something that has chosen to not just embrace its queer fandom, its fandom of color, but to further embrace the identity of what drew many people to Star Trek, though it's not in vogue. Genuinely, religion has never been less attractive to try and understand as an element of pop culture. But Star Trek is trying to keep the religion attractively part of the universe, the idea of division of species without the sacrifice of identity. Because look, you know, Una Chen is such a perfect character for this. She's not willing to say the species I am is bad. She's willing to say, I understand I don't fit your rules, but I'm looking to be part of a new future. And what we're looking at is a reflective reflection point of Star Trek, which has never been more primed to be real or just a fantasy. And the willingness to abide by a world that in 1992 was Aladdin and Jasmine was just the peacock princess standing alongside him, versus that's a deep cut for you Follow Your Dreams Disney Princess VHS collection folks. But then, you know, we're talking about the same entity that 20 years later gave us Frozen. So I think, you know, Star Trek said we could either be fuddy-duddies, but look at that fucking Rey character. Most demanded lightsaber toy in history.
Yes. But
yes, and because
yes,
it's
and.
improv, Uta Hagen.
They, without a ton of prompting, do a lot of, here's the you can't just roll with this one. Here's the explanation.
Okay.
And they should.
Yeah.
But
Expliquez-vous, parlez-vous français.
we now have TOS era, Picard end of season 3 era, which is what I call the present.
Legacy era.
Yeah.
And legacy era. And now we have the far future. We know we're getting more Strange New Worlds. Oh, and we have vaguely after
DS9.
What's that?
Vaguely after DS9 on Lower Decks.
Yes, exactly.
I would call it TOS, TNG and post TNG, and sort of the tight post TNG.
Yep.
I agree that 2401 is the present.
Yep.
It is where the linear story has most recently left off.
Yep.
Not excluding a very distant future.
Yep.
And then there's the very distant future.
And we know we're getting stuff in all 3 places. We're getting more Strange New Worlds for sure. I really don't think you cast Paul Wesley and start doing all and everybody else one by one. Uhura's in the mix now. We've got Spock. We just got Scotty. We need.
I think
Bones.
we're only missing 2.
What's that?
Yeah, I think we're only missing 2. We're missing Bones.
Yeah, we need Bones. We need Chekhov, and we need Sulu.
And
yeah,
I just want to kind of comment on what you're saying in a positive way. Like, it's like going on a date and the guy being like, "Oh my god, critical race theory, yes, please," but it's just LGBT. I'm sorry, LGB, no T. It's even hard for me to get the joke wrong because, I can't imagine that
Don't
world.
want to talk about that.
Yeah. But that's kind of, I think, the duality of what we're looking at with Strange New Worlds and sort of the irresponsibility, for my sake, of the 2 different presents. Like, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too in a way that I just don't think is cute. They're hedging their bets. You can't make that many decisions about the Discovery era if you don't make them about the DS9 era. But what they're doing is they're asking you, the viewer, to do all the work. They're asking you to connect the dots. I just feel like what I wind up connecting the dots with, TK, when you first came to me with Second Temporal War, I was like, eat a dick.
You really were, and I'm coming back to it in a second.
But like now I'm like, and make it different, and I'm here.
Honestly, we had a great conversation. I don't think you were wrong with anything you said. And a bunch of what you said it was literally, I do not want it. You personally did not want it.
Yeah, but like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, okay, because I need something that makes me not feel like I am baiting my breath between entries. That's why, like, every time I say to Kevo, "Hey Kevy, when is Knights of the Old Republic?" Like 36 minutes before A New Hope, and Kevy's like, "Baby, it's like 10,000 years before episode 1." And I'm like, no.
And what we have stretches back like 50,000. I mean, the Star Trek time or Star Wars timeline is insane.
Yeah.
So again, same thing with Dune. Present day is like 25,000 years in Dune's past. It's insane.
Oh, you mean the Jaworski film?
Yeah. No, the David Lynch film.
Yes, the David Lynch film. Yes, the David Lynch film. No other film.
My core view of a lot of the things that they do on this show and that they are doing, I sort of view like there's a basic tentpole structure of what the timeline is. Like, I still think Space Seed is going to happen. I still think Wrath of Khan is going to happen. I feel like everything we are getting with Strange New Worlds and modern stuff is meant to be, what would the perspective on that basic story be if we were telling it now? If we were telling it in the 1960s, Carol's just some bitch that Kirk got pregnant and doesn't give a fuck about. But we don't talk that way, and we don't act that way in the modern world. So for whatever problematic reasons they might ultimately give for Kirk not being much involved in his son's life, it's not going to be the same exact thing that would make you literally hate Kirk by today's standards.
Right.
They'll find a way to make it more, like I even said, maybe he's seen him like 4 times his whole life at the end, and David never knew that was his father, but James met him and like provided for him in some way. Like they'll perhaps do something, but
your explanation works. It does not necessarily. Your explanation
That's
works.
not necessarily what they're doing, though.
Right. Your explanation works, and it very well may be what happens. But if they... So we're only 7 years away from Kirk taking over the Enterprise.
If that, yeah.
If they do any time jumps, we're going to hit it. We have the crew. Are we doing that show? If we're doing that show, if we do it in a way where ultimately they retell the Wrath of Khan story, I don't think they can give a hand wave explanation. I think they have to change the timeline. And that's my point, is that's kind of where we are at all times. There are totally acceptable one-liners for why things are the way that they are, but the one-liner only works when things go a certain way. And that's accounting for this era. We've got to figure out, what are we doing legacy? And then are we going to constantly be looking at legacy going, but if that happened, what does that mean for Disco Future? And then Disco's doing Starfleet Academy. So
Amber's going to do Disco in the future. Disco will be fine.
This is her night.
It really is. Roxelle doesn't need your love anymore.
Did you have a Trek thing, or was I, because I could jump in?
I really do the Trek thing. You know, something we keep talking about is the unstable inevitability of the course of existing canon interfering with the possibility of the open floor that new canon offers. And something I think is, we keep focusing on the mirror universe. And look, I find mirrors sexy. I see this in the mirror. But I think the other thing that is really attractive to think about is the division universe. What if our crew splits from themselves at a single moment in time, and that's how we get to keep following them? They go forward in a separate world, and it turns out that's the world that syncs up with Discovery. And there's nothing that stops there being a separate feed that doesn't eat the reality of the original canon. I don't want to get rid of the original canon. I just want to make room for new voices, for new experiences. And like, you know, I think about the fact that this show was made before, you know, there was a sitcom, and I forget the name of the show, and I feel so silly for it, but it was essentially, oh my God, can you imagine if this Catholic guy married a Jewish woman? Oh my God. And
yeah.
Sitcom in the 80s, late 70s. And that's insane to me. And like, you know, this show, the Star Trek, the original, was created before the Scorpions ever sang about the winds of change. Germany wasn't reunified. I want to know what it's like to actually talk about the things that are hard to talk about now on Star Trek. And that might require a little rejiggering of the window.
The resolution of the Klingons in Undiscovered Country, the 6th Star Trek major motion picture, was meant to be a reflection of the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
Like, there are things that this is how we are coming, that we are basing a lot of our concepts around, that are ongoing things that we need to address. You know,
and basically no show, kind of DS9, but it was really referring to other stuff.
Yeah.
Did the Iraq War, Afghanistan, post 9/11. There was a little bit of it, but it was really coming from ideas out of the 70s. It was really what Ron D. Moore and a couple other older guys
remembered.
Right, because Ron D. Moore does 9/11 in Battlestar Galactica.
Ron D. Moore did 9/11?
He does 9/11 as much as he can.
Folks.
Have you seen the For All Mankind? He does 9/11 as often as he can, man. You know, I have always, and I think even before the sequel trilogy to Star Wars happened, said that I am kind of in favor of legacy reimaginings in ways that can still be the original timeline. I have said that I would love some sort of mini-series type event that could sort of retell the Star Wars Skywalker saga in like 3 10-episode seasons per trilogy. Like, I think that stuff like that is cool. I think there are ways you can do stuff like that that still is the original story, doesn't change the timeline, but are better ways to present the story now that we have so much time, now that we have so much understanding. And you can even do like twists and turns and make subtle changes, but I feel like there are ways in which you can do a lot of the TOS stuff, do a lot of the original movies stuff, and reimagine them in ways with the new legacy actors for a modern audience that keeps the integrity of the timeline while also reinventing and reinvigorating these stories. But I don't know necessarily that anyone who's in charge of any of this has any interest in that.
Yeah.
We don't really have any indication or idea that anyone who's in charge of this stuff has any ideas about that, or if they are just completely flying by the seat of their pants and making all of this up as they go. If they're like, this is how we know Pike will end up in the BP chair. Whatever we do over the next 10 seasons of Strange New Worlds, we know how he's going to sit in the BP chair. We don't necessarily have anything like that.
Yeah.
He could not end up there. I feel like a lot of the reasons that they had him with the foreknowledge is so they don't have to dance around us knowing it and he can live in that moment. But it might be to subvert it. Who knows?
And because my thing is, like, we're also talking about the wrinkle of fandom, audience reaction, and psychology. My only reason why I think it's not going to happen is because I think we've fallen in love with Anson Mount, and we maybe don't want to let him go.
Handsome Mountain,
Handsome Mountain, Boltadong.
The sadist writer in me doesn't give a fuck about that, though. I really want to be honest about that. I'm kind of like, people die.
Books. That's books. That is not a screen. This is my point, is we're dealing with so many factors. I genuinely feel like people may have a problem watching him die and not getting him back and not being able to say in 5 years, 5 years after the show ends, I miss him. Do a Discovery crew reunion. They're not going to do it with him in a face melted wheelchair box thing. Even though, throwing it out there, disabled people live fascinating, interesting lives.
You could have a face like you've seen the Ark of the Covenant and still fuck like a champ.
Exactly.
No, but it's like they didn't kill Rick on Walking Dead because people didn't want him dead, and so they wanted to be able to do things with him. And now, surprise, surprise, they've done fuck all with him. How many years later? But people just don't want the character dead, so they can't kill people.
This is my concern.
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, this is why ultimately I'm like, maybe it is, a series of TV movies that is a second temporal time war. Because I also think that's a dimension to the Star Trek story that I fell in love with through Voyager. The fact that there is a temporal prime directive, that there is a temporal federation.
Yeah.
Oh my God, saying like miniseries? What if it's one episode from every Star Trek show ever?
Yes, correct.
TOS, Enterprise. Yeah. Like, what if they recreate the shows where they don't have the actors?
Yes.
They use the actors where they can.
Yep.
Hot.
Yes.
Even if it's just Quark and Kira.
Yeah. Again, we got to go back. We simply can't do First Contact, so we got to go all the way back to First Contact, establish what date that is, and I think there is a way to figure out how to say your favorite episode still happened, but they just have a lot to figure out. And I'm looking at what we've got Lower Decks, which is their next season is about to start. They actually are positioned to do this the best. Because we don't need actors. And this is silly. And I think maybe the only way to do it is, with Boimler defying physics the way he jumps up a wall.
Riker.
So Strange New Worlds exists in this weird place in continuity time, but then also in Star Trek as a concept. I'm Strange New Worlds is so tough to talk about like the other shows because it's like, what do I want out of the next season? What am I expecting? Everything.
Everything is literally the word I was going to say. Too much.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I demand nothing. I am ready for anything. I'm having so much fun. The fact that they said we can make them just serious enough to make them live action. That's what makes me feel like you guys need to work on your stuff, because I see what happens when you work on your stuff. You make musicals, you make animated live action, and not only do you do it, it works.
You do it with aplomb.
Yeah. So figure out how this thing that was kind of a lark in 1960 and is now like our roadmap for how we want to be as a society in the future. Let's do some cleaning house and reorganizing. You've already set the rules up, so we need it. I want Legacy. I Jonathan Frakes was just talking about how there's a will for it. I completely agree. I also sort of demand nothing, want anything and everything from Legacy, except maybe Boy Crusher. I mean, he's very sexy, but I think he's very stupid.
He's also 70.
That's the problem. Is he is a 45-year-old man, not an 18-year-old boy.
So you know what? 22. Because I'm only really reiterating 22 because the actual number is just as ridiculous as pretending he's 18.
True.
He's supposed to be like 23 years old maximum.
True.
And it just, I'm sorry, Edward Spielers. You're so handsome, but
So
no,
handsome.
you're just not. And so I kind of,
he is like the bubble butt of men. Like
we kind of realistically need there to be a 10-year jump from the end of Picard season 3, and not 10 years, but like 5 at least.
Yeah,
I would accept 7 of 9 looks that good 10 years later.
I mean, that's the problem. Women just fucking bang all. I mean, I don't accept that Beverly looks this good. Honestly, like that points to the problem too. They hired the wrong actor, and now it's like, are we gonna do a time travel shenanigan to age him to the proper age? Because no, they can't jump 10 years into the future. That wouldn't make sense that the rest of them look this good. I really wish that they hadn't been like, so it was specifically that month that you all saw in that Star Trek movie.
Remember that time y'all fucked?
Yeah.
The last time everyone was super horny on screen, it was that.
Also, guys, Beverly disappeared for a fucking year on Star Trek that would make that kid the correct age. And that's my point too. I know somebody was like, no, it would be ridiculous to say that he was born in Beverly's year off.
I don't necessarily trust that someone did say it was ridiculous. I don't trust that they thought of it.
I'm sure it was ridiculous that she gave birth at 72. So
I mean, yeah, any age. Although I do, and this brings me around to a point that I want to make before we necessarily take a break or anything, and because I know that we still want to talk.
Well,
about
and I want to get everybody
series.
else's thoughts on the upcoming shows, because I still have to do Starfleet Academy, and then I want everybody else on it too. So, go.
But I really want to say something that I am so grateful to not Disco, just in general, actually, not even one in specific, but just the general Star Trek, most specifically Strange New Worlds, but a lot of the way it's been ramping up, how completely comfortable they are being silly. Is it absolutely fucking hysterically ridiculous to believe that Beverly got pregnant during Insurrection? Yes. Does it matter? No.
Not
no,
really.
It doesn't.
That's also one of the easiest ones to be like, 300 years in the future, women give birth into their 60s. That's like not insane at all.
But like between, whether it's the musical or just the fantasy universe that was from season 1, so many of these silly things that they are willing to let themselves cut loose and be silly with that a lot of modern sci-fi, a lot of modern television would shy away from.
Yeah.
And they are very much not shy about this stuff. And I think that is very cool and sets a lot of really smart precedent for the potential to do a lot of the things that we're talking about. The temporal re-war, any of these things, I think they are possible because of the things that we already see them doing.
And what I would say is, like, I agree. Whatever faction of production thinks they're not possible and doesn't contribute to the silly episodes and the silly ideas, get on board. You're lost without them. This show took itself too seriously too much of the time pre-streaming era. I don't think we can go back. I think even this Gorn episode, there are times where I'm like, this is too silly that somebody isn't saying something. This is too silly that we're not identifying it and naming it in some way. That somebody isn't talking about the tunic belted Gorn. I be silly when you can. You never know when you're gonna not have the opportunity. Lastly, Starfleet Academy, show I'm most I have the highest expectations for, because at the end of the day, what we might be saying, the easiest thing to say might just be everything else is a prestige legacy project. The present is actually this far-flung future, and everything will be here from now on. We might give you Star Trek Legacy with 7 of 9, but that Tori Sheehan, let's be space silly. Yes, let's do it. And Discovery always finds the balance. Tilly is silly. Tilly is such a silly character. And
also love this, Allie. We love Gorn puns, so thank you. Thank you so much, Allie Galactic.
Starfleet Academy really might set the tone for this is where we're going from now on. This is it. This is our future. So I hope that it can bear that mantle and then also live up to what we've gotten from characters like Adira and Gray, in terms of we're seeing a very safe of current, like reflective of current culture, safe world. A world where, you know, when a trans teen is building their own body, the adults are just like, you do whatever you want. If you want to get rid of a mole, get rid of a mole. Which is what kids should be hearing today. So Starfleet Academy really has a job to perpetuate that into a much sort of broader idea of youth. So yeah, those are my kind of feelings about what we got coming up. Kevo, what do you think?
I keep putting up Tilly because I believe our understanding of Starfleet Academy taking place in the 32nd century and the fact that Tilly works and went to work at Starfleet Academy, like, that is our understanding and our great hope that this will be a Headmaster Tilly focused show.
I think so. I think Mary Weissman is our Kitty Pryde of Star Trek Discovery. She is our entry follow character. She is who we would all be on the Enterprise. We would not be smooth and cool. We would also not be so angsty and heartbroken. We would be stupid, silly messes that sometimes were angsty, but also sometimes got left behind with our roommate's cat. Anyway, Tilly's the best. I do think it'll be about her, but keep going, Kevo. What do you feel about any past projects? Any projects taking place in the past?
Like in TOS or
now,
like, I guess,
you know,
TNG?
future seasons of Strange New Worlds. We got season 3 coming up, probably not for 2 years, realistically. Do you want to see them get to the Kirk Enterprise, and do you want to do that?
I personally kind of do, but I know that is more a personal feeling than describing what would be best for the franchise or for the property. Because
Do you actually think it wouldn't be best, or do you just not know?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because I don't know how other people would react. I know we already get such severe reactions to everything, and so I think. Also love this comment from Tori. Give me mid-sized leads, please. This Tilly is cute. Yes, Tori, you would absolutely adore Tilly. Huge Tori Sheehan energy. I just feel like everything classic is so dated, and we are so far removed from it that seeing reimaginings of these things would benefit new audiences in such ways. I don't know. Like even TNG era now. Some of the stuff that I'm trying to show Jonah so that he can have a better understanding of classic to be able to better appreciate Lower Decks.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I have to show you this? Like it's not that it's literally awful, but I think there are so many better ways that we tell stories now.
Yeah.
And so
there's also things like companies like Google really made us think about interface design in a way that just really, it was kind of similar to science and science fiction. Interface design was only for like 2 nerds at Xerox, and it did not trickle down. And now we can all read a billion articles about material design and what Google is dreaming up, and we can care about it a little bit. So the idea that 400 years in the future, everybody would know about it and design would actually be just better than it was even for, TNG graduating from TOS. I think you're right. I mean, I think we will reach a point of diminishing returns in which we're constantly updating, but I think we could do some work before we get there.
Well, I hate to break in, but before we can get there, we're going to have to jump to break.
Sure.
And I think we're going to have to wrap up Star Trek because we're like...
Yeah, we're run long.
Yeah. So I think we're going to hop over to a break and enjoy a quick commercial. And when we come back, we'll wrap up some Star Trek and move on to some other amazing programs here on X's for Show.
Cool.
Give me a second to find...
Oh, yeah, no, and I'll dance.
No, we're good to go. What?
Thank God, Nico Nogging is the worst.
I want to talk about some bigger characters too here.
All right.
I'm really excited to do this. We've been playing a game, bracketeering, where it's basically what if we take a March Madness bracket and we go a little wacky with it, right? We have a little bit of fun. And the reason it's a little wacky is because at the end of a March Madness bracket, you still have basketball player versus basketball player. At the end of a bracketeering bracket, I'm just going to keep using that same example.
It's the best example.
It wound up the cast of Modern Family versus Batman. So you sometimes wind up with
just absolute nonsense, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
And man, I haven't seen these screen caps for a long while. Like I forgot how cool Ghost Rider looks back in the day.
We've got some good art in this, and a lot of it really took me back.
And so we came up with a list of characters who have never had their own formal animated series. They have had appearances on stuff, and I learned my lesson a little bit on what counts as an animated series. Listen to me well. Motion comics, you are not animated. You're not an animated series.
That's why we call you motion comics and not animated comics.
Anyway, I lost that battle. So I changed a couple of things at the last second. But we have some really cool matchups. We're going to talk about some really cool characters if you're game for it, Jason.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, then let's kick it off with two of our favorite characters in the entire world. Neither Daredevil nor Ghost Rider have ever had a proper animated series. Daredevil being my fave boy, and Ghost Rider being like TK's fave guy out of nowhere.
Suddenly, now that's a thing. I don't know how that happened.
Jason, where do you stand on the Devils?
I'd probably go. I mean, if we're going for like a.
Oh, Kevy, I see you. I see you are hard at work doing that unbelievable producer thing.
Oh,
you do,
there
Kevy.
she is. Oh,
You are
there's
a
that
gift,
piece.
man.
We
Thank
love
you.
her.
And we're not just back, we're super back. And we're here to talk a little bit more about our feelings on Star Trek and then roll on over into some other programs. I know that I've been in and out, but I've never been too far. So I know we've talked a little bit about TK's excitement for the future of Star Trek. Kevin, we've got a little bit of yours. And I just want to get like a quick rundown show by show with a little bit of graphical interface.
That's what I was doing.
But now there's graphical interface.
I love a graphical interface, which weirdly Star Trek doesn't have a lot of in their future.
It's like LCOMs. That's it. Right? So, all right. You know, when I think about the first Star Trek show, the modern era, Discovery, I think about a show that was so nice they had to revamp it twice. The pilot. Oh, no, everything went wrong. Get rid of the pilot. The first season and a half. Oh, no, everything went wrong. Get rid of the first season and a half.
First off, the show
thing
is
is such a
Fuller show, which is insane now.
The whole thing is such a weird structure. The pilot's not really related to the rest of the show. You don't really get into the plot until episode 3. It was clearly made for the streaming era and then aired weekly. I don't even know.
The only girl I know named Michael is Michael Burnham, and she's a traitor. You're not her, right?
It really became so much about non-cis, non-white excellence. And I think Brian Fuller probably could not have quite got it right. It's little things like the fact that Michael wears braids and becomes a captain in braids, which, you know, traditionally has been something that Black women take a lot of flack for in professional settings. And there are things that are just like, the most important thing about the show is a Black woman and an Asian woman exceeding at things that we tell them constantly they can't do. And as much as I love Brian Fuller, I just don't think his show could have quite done it. Oh, God. Lord. I would say I haven't cried this hard since, but then I watched the episode where Zora sings. I like Humans okay. I really like Machine Consciences significantly more.
Absolutely adore Disco, says Ali Galactic, despite how often it annoys the piss out of me. That's fair. That show has so much heart, and I'm so salty it got canned, and I can't even watch Star Trek anymore, LMAO. I get it. I'm also pretty upset. I kind of hope that we are re-entering an era of Trek, and entering a new era of Trek even, where even if this show has ended, we can potentially see more from these characters. It's why, like we were talking about before the break, we are excited about the potential for the Starfleet show. Perhaps we can see more adventures from anyone in the Discovery crew there. My biggest feel about Disco right now, and the thing that I'm realizing, because we saw a preview clip from the new season, and I saw people on the bridge that I was like, who the fuck are you, stranger? And I realized we've had essentially so much of the same crew since the very beginning, and that's really where a show ends. Eventually, other people need to come on this ship, and other people need to leave this ship, and then it's not really the heart. It's not really the same heart of the show that we grew to love from the beginning, and so maybe we'll see. Ali Galactic says, "I hope Academy is good." I do too. I hope good things still for the Discovery era in the future. I think Discovery took a lot of huge risks, and some of them didn't pay off, but it's led us here. And so I'm excited for the potential future that there is, and what there is that can be brought through Discovery.
And, do you have something?
No, I just wanted to get both your thoughts on what we've got left for Lower Decks. We got a new season coming up.
Well, I think we got a few shows.
Okay, you're going back.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I give opinions yet.
Go.
Yeah, no, I figured you were giving your Disco, and then we were going next.
Oh, I did my Disco. So good they had to revamp
What's
it
next?
twice. I don't know what's
next.
Picard?
It can be Picard if you want. I got a whole bunch.
Really?
Well,
by
Picard
Picard
leads into Legacy.
By Picard, I want Legacy, but by Picard, I didn't love 1. I didn't love 2. I loved 3. I loved Girardi. But Picard, you left me like Matthew Broderick on Broadway. You left me cold.
The first 2 seasons to me are basically what would have been the TNG movies that we didn't get. And again, that just means all of the TNG movies are disappointing. But I love this introduction to a new era of actual Starfleet adventuring for the late Picard era. And Legacy, hopefully. I'd love to see more from any of the TNG characters in anything. But, their time as being a crew is probably done.
If you had to pick Starfleet Academy in the future or Legacy here as the default era that we're going to go with for a while?
Academy in the future, because they can talk to me about Legacy in a way that Legacy in the past can't talk to me about Academy in the future.
That's for you too,
Yeah.
Kevin?
Probably.
Okay.
Flashbacks, not fake flash forwards. Am I right? Lower Decks. Lower Decks is edible, delectable cake. It is perfection. I want more of it. Smother me. Mariner, Boimler, Rutherford, Tendi, do it.
Can this be a central, really important Star Trek show in terms of world building and Star Trek continuity building? Or
does the Pope shit in the woods?
I think that
I don't actually
can.
think it does.
Even with
he can't get away from his people. I don't know the Vatican has woods.
Even without changing inherently what Lower Decks is, I really think that it can. I think they've shown their capabilities in the cartoon of being able to adequately and dramatically portray drama. Every single time I want to memorize Boimler's list of every single California class ship to be able to say, because that moment when they all show up and he names all of them coming to defend the Cerritos from the AI ships. Like, it really is excellent at drama, and I am genuinely psyched for us to get to the Romulan supernova and see what happens on the Cerritos during all of that, because I really want to see how they react to actual dramatic moments while staying true to the cartoon, while staying true to the comedy, because I think they really can in some amazing ways. And this is the one that I hope hits 200 episodes of everything we have going right now. More than anything else, I want, as long as it stays the quality it has been, it's not always 100% perfect, nothing is, but the quality that it's been for the last 30-ish episodes, if it can stay that, then yeah, this is the one that I want the most from. This is the one I want most informing Star Trek canon.
Same for you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that makes Lower Decks unique is its braveness. When no one cares what you do, you get to be really brave.
Are we still there?
Yeah.
Are we still, no one cares what they do?
Yeah, it's still the dumb animated
no.
show. It's still the dumb animated show with the washed out logo.
Even with the crossover.
No, I know. We're talking about like what we see the world thinking. That's, you know. Okay.
I might eat a lot of these words in 2 months when season 4 is over. We will talk a lot about season 4 when it happens, and we'll see how we feel. But currently, before any of that, yeah, I feel really strongly about this one of all the properties.
All right, and then just Strange New Worlds. I'm expecting more of the amazingness that has been so fluid throughout this show, focusing on character after character, giving everybody amazing spotlight. Pike is my captain. Ortegas is the hottest woman on TV. There's just nothing going wrong with this show for me right now. I'm just so excited about the possibility of the further reimaginings of a universe that I know so well, that seeing someone reimagine it in such slight ways, it's like when you come to find out that the Flamingos, I Only Have Eyes for You is the only one that sounds like that. The rest all sound like, like who did Fever? Oh. Peggy Lee. They're all like Peggy Lee's feet. I Only Have Eyes for You. I only have eyes for you. It's not what I want, right? So, but like, that's how Strange New Worlds is doing it, but to perfection. It's, Stars on 54 doing If You Could Read My Mind. So, I'm just so into this. Gordon Lightfoot, Space Me Away.
I only want to correct, and if we've said so much about Strange New Worlds, depending on how much anyone else says, it's important. We have, according to the SDCC banner, which was the banner that I used for today's episode, which features the visage of Philippa Georgiou. The implication is we are still getting this Section 31 film, which might be TOS era here with Strange New Worlds. It might be a completely different era. So that's part of why I even wanted to make sure and introduce it while we are talking about Strange New Worlds and how we feel about the future of that. Felt like a commitment to making something with Philippa Georgiou in the future. So whether we want it in TOS, whether we want it somewhere else, how we feel about all of that.
This was a conversation that Nico and I had. It was the same conversation where he didn't like my second temporal Cold War idea, and I never recovered from it. And psychologically still damaged.
Sorry, hold on. My elevator to hell is here.
For me, Picard, post-Picard era. I want it legacy era. We ultimately establish that her thing is not staying in a universe or a timeline.
Ooh, what a great call.
For any amount of time. I mean, like, she absorbs where she is and affects it so much in trade. And I'm not ready to regress for her. And, TOS era where she left feels like a degree of regression. That said, I understand the desire to put her against characters we've seen her with and see. The problem is just we want everybody to interact with Michelle Yeoh. I mean, maybe she's.
And that's the thing. That's why I'm doing this giggle motion where I'm like, I kind of want Philippa unstuck from time.
Right.
I kind of want her to visit the Enterprise era too, and I want her to visit TNG and
Right.
Deep Space Nine, and I just want a mini series of Philippa Georgiou jumping through time, fixing Section 31, and maybe that even leading into our temporal wars.
That's what I'm saying.
That
like
we
maybe
want.
it's that Section 31 ultimately, because obviously no matter what, Section 31 ties in very heavily to the temporal Cold War and whatever happens, because that's no matter what, that's always a very secretive mission. And maybe it's her that specifically does that, and then we get her with everybody. I think this
Philippa doesn't give a damn.
Exactly. I mean, the other thing is like she do not give a single fuck, and that's kind of important for dealing with time.
And I am
Terran fuck is one noticeably longer bit of time than an Earth fuck.
And I am angrily hungry to see Michelle Yeoh in live action interacting with Beckett Mariner.
How great would it be if this wrote out La'an? That's why no one's ever talked about La'an.
Oh my god, if she...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, but again, that takes it back to that point. We've fallen in love with La'an. Are you telling me we're killing her come back next season? Are you telling me even if we don't kill her next season, we're somehow not going to have her when Strange New Worlds closes?
You'll get Section 31 too.
I think we cannot lose La'an. I think a time shenanigan is required,
especially now that she's a time agent.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that she specifically. So anyway, it's wild. There's so many possibilities. I do have so much hope for the Section 31 Michelle Yeoh movie. I have so much hope for Michelle Yeoh. I was telling Nico, she should be Charles Xavier, Charlie X in the MCU.
I would love if she played Charlie XCX.
I'm gonna kill you.
I actually would. I would love that.
She's one of our greats. We need her. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad you made sure we talked about that because I think it's one of the really big ones coming up.
So we'll see post-strike.
Yeah.
Strike strong.
Despite selling Simon & Schuster, Paramount Plus, until they decide to mow the lawn.
Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you. I'll take it. We are a strike family. I am in the WGA. We are a strike family. Strike. But more than that, actually, it's about giving people a living wage. The number of people from Star Trek who make that living wage that are picketing for the people they are still best friends with who don't is what's really powerful here. We're not talking about the Gates McFaddens who somehow look more beautiful and younger than she looked when she first started Star Trek. What a beautiful thing that she has gotten to live a life where she gets to look how she wants to look. Not everybody makes the money where they can do that, and that's why she's picketing. She's not picketing because she's entitled. She's picketing because she made friends with Ensign number 3, who was in 4 episodes of season 5, and wants to see that person be able to support themselves.
She also came up in an era where contract negotiations for television shows were really different. Yes. Unlike beloved Star Trek actor Michelle Hurd, who plays Raffi.
Oh my God.
Who I think we love all as much as we love Deanna Troi, as much as we love Beverly Crusher.
Yes.
But whose contract, as compared to theirs, is nothing. It accounts for nothing. She gets nothing
pennies
out
on
of
the
this.
dollar.
Pennies on the dollar at best. She gets no residuals. No matter how many times we stream Picard, she is not making any more money. And this is not second house money. No. This is pay your rent money.
Yep.
And we really are at a point where we're talking about pay your rent money, where for years we have expected that actors, like minor actors, get second house money, get very comfortable money. And we've all been okay with that. So I think we can all be okay with pay your rent money.
I'm looking forward to getting house money.
I remember it was only like just a couple of years ago. Tyler Posey signal boosted his sister's college GoFundMe. And I remember a lot of the feedback being, you're rich, why can't you just pay? And like, first of all, pay for your sister's college, not my job. Lots of people have I need tuition money GoFundMes. But there was this perception that the star of MTV's Teen Wolf could pay for his sister's entire Ivy League college tuition on top of what you probably already assumed he was paying to take care of his family in such a way that like it was
sounds like
so
a Family
bizarre.
Guy cutaway.
And that actually, you know, that's cable money. Like we have gone
It's
so
Larry,
far down
I'm on DuckTales.
I'm on DuckTales, Larry. Well, and I'm on DuckTales, Larry. Yes, Danny Putty did not make a ton of money. You know,
Danny Putty didn't make a ton of money.
I knew you were
he was
into
on
it.
Community.
I'm just done. It has been bad for cable actors. You know, broadcast actors made better money because you had a rather big budget for a broadcast TV show. Cable budgets were smaller because we expected that fewer people would watch those. Fewer advertiser dollars were given to those.
Arliss just got a Poland Spring bottle.
I never understood what was going on with Arliss.
It's actually that lady that you love from that show you love about the doctors that all have orgasms about tragedies.
Nurse Jackie?
No, the woman that was on Grey's
Anatomy. What? Who on Grey's Anatomy? Shonda?
She won the Emmy. She's very dry, and then she was on that show about killing Eve.
Oh, Sandra Oh?
Sandra Oh was on Arliss.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, God.
She was great.
Anyway, cable actors didn't make very much money, and that set up a really bad precedent. Streaming actors make no money, and all we do is stream TV now. So we got to fix this. Ali Galactic asks, what is money? I think that's how we all kind of feel right now. We all deserve a living wage. It really can benefit us to support people we feel like get things that we don't get. And actors especially really feel like, what do I care? You would be shocked how many of these people are making just appallingly unlivable wages. And again, I point to Michelle Hurd, Raffi, who we couldn't do Picard without Raffi. And I think she really seems like that actor, Michelle Hurd, who's killing it on Star Trek. No, she made nothing and had to wonder if she was going to get cast for the next season, which booked not the next year, but a year and a half later. So if the actors and the writers can negotiate a good contract, if the Teamsters can negotiate a good contract, if the rest of us can unionize and negotiate good contracts, we might get ever closer to that Star Trek future we were talking about.
It only means better art for us.
And I just want to say that, like, you know, we all in life have our super secret weapons. My personal Cerebro helmet is Tori Sheehan. And so sometimes when I'm like, I need to be smarter, I'm just like, Tori, make my brain do more. And one of the things that I'd never considered about the nature of the way the strike works that I've, you know, come to find through articles she sent me or through our conversations is I'd never considered that the strike exists to help other industries.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until it was made clear to me that, you know, my precious Broadway, which, like, look, I've never felt so vindicated in my life as Tori and I having the same immediate within 1 second reaction to a billboard. I immediately, as soon as I saw that the Harry Potter play had a billboard that said, see it this week, I literally went, that's not a good sign. And then Tori out loud, when Kevo repeated that to her, went, uh-oh.
Yep.
So, like, one of the things that's so important to consider with this strike is we're not just talking about creating one way to do things. We're talking about creating a way to follow that could be sort of repeated. I'm so glad you brought up the UPS FedEx Teamsters Union, because that was such an important moment in this whole discussion, because we're talking about not just the people who not just the CEOs getting, fat cat deals. We're talking about the guys who do the backbreaking labor, who can only do it for 15 years before their sciatica is shot to shit. We're talking about making sure those guys will forever have the money and access to health care that they need. And we're not just talking about one thing. We're talking about a bigger picture of our world. And Star Trek actually strives to show us that world. And Kevo, you pointed out something that I just pissed my pants over. The prize on food trucks is $50,000. And that's food truck road race that we love so much on this show. It's
that's the Miss Congeniality prize on Drag Race. That's the consolation. That's you stubbed your toe.
That's the amount of money that Jane and Michael Banks are thinking about giving to the homeless lady that Mary Poppins is do it. And their dad is
my God.
No, don't help homeless people. That's bad.
That is,
and the audience is supposed to feel
of Drag Race All Stars season 8. Candy Muse made off of tips from winning lip syncs.
Does that even cover your truck?
That's honestly, that is a solid amount of money for working a food truck, but it's not star money. It's just a solid boost.
I get what Tori is saying here as well, by the way. Tori comments, I have never understood how there aren't a smaller range of prizes on these shows. I miss the days when there were runner-up prizes too. Yeah.
I also missed the day when there was a range of prices on real estate in Midtown. So
truly.
I know.
Prizes and prices. Let's drop them all.
That's not Daddy Food Truck's fault though.
Thankfully, the food truck that won doesn't have to pay for meat. So their overhead is a little bit lower, although paying for heirloom mushrooms, probably not cheap. So, what do I know? But congratulations to vegan.
She's an easy vegan.
The easy vegan, thank you.
I laughed because I'm looking at my food trucks board and I saw that I made the X over Kana for losing so much bigger than all the other X's. I forgot I did that.
I think, Kevo, that was not just prescient but observant. I don't know that the production team was these very kind of not pleasant people should win.
I also still love the edit that I made.
Absolutely brilliant.
What's his name? To Kana. Yeah.
If you tell me you're a non-binary trans person who has piercings up and down, whatever you identify as your penis, I am here for you and think you're sexy beyond belief. So I want to just be really clear that I am not coming for the queer community that I am a part of. These were annoying queer people.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. She owns a Pakistani food truck. That is a
beautiful moment in time,
but it is a cross to bear in the world.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It is. She is clearly hardened in certain ways, and those ways are not all oh, you're just kind of a shitty person. Does she behave shittily throughout the show?
And not toward guests. Not toward guests.
No, she does. And she has a moment with Kumail Nanjiani, but we never got the truth of what happened to their fired third employee.
Still have it. Yeah.
Good, but the last time we discussed this, I was
Fit Hagrid.
The last time we discussed this, I was we didn't see it. It might have been that they were totally within their rights, and he was the problem. It really did seem was it Bill? The gentleman from De Block who came to work with them.
Oh my God. And what a hero.
Yeah. He seemed to get along with them really well. They seemed to have a good vibe.
Is it Carl or Terry?
Carl. Thank you.
Carl.
I knew it was just a dude named Bill, Carl, whatever.
Carl.
And they lost Jake.
Yeah, they did. And was that a loss? Who can say?
But whatever. Just the verb lost, not the emotionally charged. Whatever.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
As a band,
yeah,
is Carl less than Jake?
really important question.
He's more than Jake, is what we hear. So this is more than
think
Jake.
Ultimately, that's where we landed on that.
Just shades apart on all of this.
I mean, ultimately, no matter what, he was
No.
more than Jake. I can't say for what the interpersonal situation was for Kana, but
Yeah.
Jake didn't really give a lot of personality to the camera,
No.
and Carl always did.
Yes.
Carl, whether it was having the second opportunity and being like, I'm not going to waste it, I
Yeah.
don't think so, because the block always had personality.
Yes.
So at the very least, Carl definitely added to the energy of the truck Kana in a way that Jake did not.
100%. Kana struggled early on, but again, like, to be a Pakistani food truck in this world in America at all is really difficult. And I do think some of their, I don't even want to quite say vitriol, but some of the
Literally the same word I thought.
Fine
some
word,
of the
though.
difficulty that they had being charming, I think really may have come from that. And again, it's one of those things where, you know, we maybe expect women of color to charm us, and maybe that's, I mean, not maybe, that is really unfair.
Yeah.
Esmeralda set unbelievable standards in The Hunchback of Notre Dame that just Disney movies, it just
We expect, you know, cute pixie femme presenting queer people to charm us.
excellent point.
In general, this was a truck that we said, you're not charming us, fuck you a little bit.
Yeah, man. Wow, you're making some really good points about some predetermined prejudice I came with.
But I will say they did not charm anybody. They did not, you know, the world sucks, but sometimes you get to a place where you say, I know what it takes to win this competition and it's not fair, but I still have the tools to win the competition if I choose to. I feel as though Kana oftentimes did know what it took and refused to do it. And maybe I really respect them for that. But it did mean ultimately that they clearly were not winning from a charm standpoint.
Great perspective.
For me, it was most often about not behaving in ways that I felt were conducive or productive to being members of the food truck community.
Kevo, how would we describe
felt-
that? What would we say that is not?
It's not Corilla.
This is not.
It's not in
Gorilla.
the competition. And, you know, I feel like if Paisani
Yeah.
had behaved in some of the ways that Kana behaved,
Yes.
we would have had no
I shit
problem
on them
whatsoever.
before they
Before they
behaved in any way.
spoke.
Yeah.
And in
Could
some ways that's
LeGrand
fair
Wolf
because
listen
look
these
at
guys
them.
already.
I know.
No, we must protect them.
Yeah.
I will say it is easier to be the boys of Paisani than it is to be the
Yes.
People of Kana. So, you know, there's a balance. But you do bring up the other important point that I didn't bring up, which is regardless of how the world treats you, these seasons, these groups do really get close and become families, and that is part of a point of the show. And you could see a lot of support for each other that went beyond, you know, minority status. It was like other minorities were supportive of other minorities on this show. And Kana, yeah, they really were not. There were times where they really said, oh, we have an opportunity to get ahead because we could not help our competitor. And that is how you play certain reality TV show games. It is very clearly not how you do the Great Food Truck Race.
Can I just piggyback on that to something
Come on.
help me learn about?
Come on.
I could never express why I was upset about actually talented, very handsome, very beautiful in, you know, both forms he took, Drag Race contestant Maddie Morphosis, who is a cis heterosexual competing on Drag Race. And, you know, TK, the way you helped me focus it, and please correct me where I repeat this conversation, you know, we had wrong.
Yeah.
The lesson I took was, while someone like me, who, yeah, I'm Cuban and I'm queer and I'm poly and that's beautiful, but like I look like a guy who could be cast as a cop on NYPD Blue and not the minority cop. You know what I mean? And so, like, we're not talking about me. We're talking about Naysha Lopez. And we're talking about any of the beautiful queens of color over the years, like Raja, who would suffer and seek to thrive in their industries in any form, whereas a heteronormative white cis male is likely to succeed over a person of color or a person of minority status. So to give one of the very few spots to thrive sort of by default, and not always by default, notice how many seasons wind up predominantly white contestants across the spectrum. And while it's not as many recently, still, I had never really thought of it that way. So, it really is part of that spectrum that Kana would be told you don't get to thrive anywhere else. And maybe some of their ferocity is a hunger that I will never experience by virtue of my whiteness.
And it is important to note that for as much as they are also very clearly outwardly queer, the team that actually won is also pretty outwardly at least white passing, if we can't speak for every member's ethnicity.
But the ones on either side, I would subscribe to either one's OnlyFans. It's just I will say
I get that.
She has a very attractive business sense in the middle.
And that is a thing. Being a butcher presenting,
she's a very beautiful Amazonian woman.
She's tall. She's got a short haircut. That's not across to bear in this world. That's not. You go into this world and people treat, and you're running a vegan.
The vegan truck. Oh my god!
You're also running a vegan food truck in LA. There's just a lot of factors at play. This was a complicated season. The amazing thing about food trucks is nobody shows up a piece of shit. You don't get the truck and cook the food.
Not anymore, certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
You don't do everything it takes to get here and serve a single day in a food truck and just suck at this. You're not just some joke who, your dad bought you a food truck. It really is difficult work, and all of these people to a certain degree deserved it no matter what. That is in a certain way why being a family and being part of the family and supporting your other competitors matters, because in this world, if you can't show love to the truck parked in front of you, next week when there's some garbage city ordinance that takes your spot, nobody is going to be making sure you get another spot.
No one will be sympathetic. No one will want to work with you. Yep.
Connor really didn't do that. And I find it unfortunate because I do see all the ways in which the deck was stacked against them. I think, if you say Indian food, some people are going to say, nah, I'm okay. But everybody knows what you're talking about. Everybody knows if they want or don't want Indian food. Indian food has staples that we talked about today. Everybody loves a tandoor chicken. When you say Pakistani food, I don't think anybody has any idea what you might be suggesting.
No, I really just, the number of people who, when I'm like, it's amazing when Filipino people get to speak Tagalog on television and they're like, oh my God, I love Tagalongs. Girl Scout cookies. Yep. I'm like, oh.
And one of the most fascinating things to learn about as a newcomer to this show was the coconut wireless.
Oh my God, coconut wireless.
This idea that, Hawaiian and like Polynesian adjacent food trucks know their demographic in the places that they go and they support each other. That's really cool. But so these guys won like the first 5 weeks. The bald guy, which was a Hawaiian food truck, won the first 5 weeks in a row through the coconut wireless, through other people of their background coming to support their truck. And then one day they were just the lowest selling ones and they went home.
And like overnight, exactly. As
one day they just went home. So
that's just the show.
This is not Drag Race where track record matters. And there is a number that you can set that says, if you don't hit the number, you lose.
I also just want to say something that, I'm obviously the most hormonal person on television, but something worth noting is the bald guy having two of the most beautiful men on reality TV in 2023 is reflective of the fact that something else Food Truck Road Race seeks to create is a world in which every body type exists. I don't want to be, I was 300 pounds, so I don't want to over personalize the experience. I don't want to be overly personal about this, but I felt like it was hard to walk through walkways. I felt like it was hard to get through doorways. I was really self-conscious on planes. And like the man who runs the bald guy in the middle is like a goddamn king. That is the size a man should be. And like, I would never see him on American Idol outside of I'm just going to say it, outside of, oh, look, the fat one. People used to literally come up to me and tell me I was very handsome for a fat man. And like, that this show doesn't do that.
Despite being a food show, it is not, and you're fat because you love food.
Yeah.
Like, that's never something they do on these shows. Like, there's occasionally a joke, the way that they would make a joke about this woman being pretty. Well, there is never anything where it is a focus on fat.
It's 3 people running a truck. Nobody ever mentions how hot any of the guys from Paisani are. I imagine heterosexual men and lesbians think the girls from the crepe truck are really gorgeous too.
I'm a pansexual man who would absolutely be happy to ask any of the women from Lisa's Creperie out on a date.
I feel like the middle one especially is your type.
Yeah, she really is. I wasn't trying to be a creep, but
maybe the one on the right.
She's exactly my type.
But I mean, the fact of the matter is, it just really, like, besides people talking about, like, and reaction shows, people talking about it, the show is never like the hot girls got out there, so they took it this episode.
It never becomes
right, exactly. Nobody is washing their truck and soaping things up.
The closest they've ever come in situations like that is the times they have had drag queens, or there was one season.
There's maybe a theme where it pops
where someone had a duck costume. I forget which season that was, but yeah, it's there's focus on performances, but it's not set. There's no extreme sexualization. On this program,
right? And it's because it is packs of people and not personalities. It's not one person's, it's always 3 people running, and which is what makes the Kana situation so weird, because it's a pack of 3 no matter what you do, and they just got rid of one of them. It's like they cut off their arm in the middle of the show. Every truck is a body of 3. So no matter how gorgeous we think any of them are, the show never really plays that. And it really is always just about, no matter what you think of them, 3 people doing the thing. And, the metrics are different than a lot of reality shows. Again, it's just, did you hit the sale or did you not?
It's just math.
And can I just jump on that?
Yeah, come on.
Growing up, the love of my life was Shannon Doherty. And she still is. Shannon, I know you're watching. I am such a big fan of your infomercials. But I remember there was this guy who I was like so desperate to.
Okay, you're already talking about Shannon Doherty. You can't have 2.
No. So desperate to keep in my life.
Okay.
I was so desperate to keep this guy in my life, despite these really uphill battles, like not even just like in a sexual way, like personal importance. And I was spending time with his mom, and I used to just kind of keep her company. And she was telling me how they just got a new dog, and they named the dog Paige. And I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. The only Paige I can think of is the fucking worst thing that ever happened to Charmed. Like, I mean, literally the thing that made me quit the show. Like, if you ask me to name like the 5 worst things that ever happened to TV, 1, 2, 3, and 5 would be Paige from Charmed, and number 4 would be having to have this fucking conversations with you. You know what I mean? Why'd you name the dog Paige? And she was like, the power of 3 will get your stupid cunt ass out of my house. And
how did you not learn from that interaction that you still do that?
Oh my God! I never thought of that.
Yes.
So
you ask first. Why did you name the dog Paige?
No, I do shtick. So I remember feeling like super duper ashamed about how I handled that. But I'm a guy who, like, if you say a bad word about the first Darren on Bewitched, I just think you should leave. Why'd
you even watch Bewitched?
If you say a good word about the second Darren on Bewitched, I'm not sure why we're friends. But that's like your experience. And something that's really interesting is, despite the fact that we spend years with people, We just accept it when a new actor will sometimes come in and replace a character that's beloved. And I make that big joke because, like, that was an actual example of replacing the character, not just replacing the actor within the character. We only had 3 weeks with Kana to give a shit about Jake.
Yeah.
That we felt Carl, a man we were familiar with. It's like they replaced a character on a TV show with a character that had been written out years earlier. This isn't a betrayal, but we found the idea of it offensive to our sensibility because we identify that first moment we meet a reality team with what their reality must be. So this poor man who, like, literally, Carl, great guy, came in and really did these two incredible competitors a service. As much as we loved Carl, we've treated Carl like he is some sort of betrayer to Jake, who, for all we know, stepped on puppies.
I don't think we've necessarily thrown Carl under the truck in any significant way.
Literally coming for him with a mace.
Bring up the clip. If you can't bring up the clip, it didn't happen.
I think it is really just that because it had never happened in food truck history.
Yes.
It was uncomfortable. There was no, like, the show is exactly this flexible that it's fine.
Like the first time I ever saw a unicycle, I was just uncomfortable because I'd never seen it.
Gonna kill
I do have to say, God fucking damn, do I love your comparison. Like it is Corone coming in to replace Kendricks in Power Rangers Lost Galaxy.
The greatest moment in all of Power Rangers history.
Like it is a legacy character coming back to replace someone departing the series. That comparison is beautiful. But I don't remember any of us coming for Carl.
Winston coming back. A new girl.
No, Coach. You mean Coach?
Coach coming back, yeah, because Winston's there.
Yeah.
It's Coach.
Yeah, it's Coach coming back. If Winston had left and replaced Coach, or someone else boring, I don't know.
And ultimately, I will say, I think Food Trucks absolutely is flexible enough to support this. I sort of am a little disappointed in Tyler Florence for not being like, we do what we got to do. Every time, Food Truck life is... you get enough people to work the truck so you can open tomorrow. It was a little bit like he was frozen in place when this happened and was like, oh, I don't know. And then every time after that, he was like, and Carl, who's not supposed to be here, but he is, you albatross.
Is that not always Tyler Florence on this show? It kind of, like, I know Nico jokes about how high he must be on this program, but it really feels like he just gets stoned, shows up to say a few lines and do the mass, and doesn't really care much about anything else, and it feels like he was almost like, oh right, Jake left, I guess I was supposed to learn you guys' names. Do you have any food for me? Bye.
Funny story. I actually once heard that what happened was Eddie Murphy showed up, did a few lines, and then recorded Raw.
Not related, but
so
topical, I guess, to someone.
This season became so much more about this thing that happened in the middle than it did about getting to the end. And that's okay. I really hope lessons were learned. And I really hope this show feels very much like Project Runway, where like Project Runway should never have been on Lifetime. The fact that it was spent so many seasons on Lifetime,
great perspective.
When it's like it really could be a broadcast show because fashion is how we all live our lives, and seeing how people create the clothes that we wear on our back, like seeing the next generation of people that are going to be dressing us, hugely important.
Can I ask, like, so you're saying that the universality of a general lens via broadcast television would have been more accessible than the specified lens of Bravo or Lifetime?
Bravo is so like the thing is cable is so nuanced that Lifetime is smaller than Bravo. Lifetime has a smaller budget than Bravo. Lifetime targets a very specific audience that Bravo does not. The graduation to Bravo was actually great for Project Runway, but I could see Project Runway on CBS. They would be on CBS, which like actually would be worse for them than being on Fox or ABC. Like there are gradations to this, and I just feel like Lifetime was the lowest possible one you could ask for Project Runway, even at this point behind like streaming it. Great food.
We're looking at you making the cut.
There you go. Great
If
food
we're going to
truck
talk about
really
fashion, I'm
feels
going to
like God bless you, Lime Truck.
Daniel from Lime Truck, who is quite literally like the absolute boys next door dream come true.
Great food truck race
okay.
to me is so important because nobody is a master chef. And you're never eating at a master. And that's like Project Runway is different because, you know, as we learned from Meryl Streep's perfect monologue from Devil Wears Prada, it doesn't matter that Christian Siriano is one of the most important, iconic designers who makes couture that you can't afford. It will trickle down to you. So following his career makes sense. You are actually probably never going to eat at the restaurant that some of the really greats from cooking shows end up cooking at, and it's not really going to trickle down. Some trends will, but McDonald's doesn't ever like do a demi-glace.
Yeah,
Like
McDonald's is never like, we got in celebrity chefs, the Voltaggio brothers, to reimagine the Big Mac.
I mean, and even like graduating up to like a Chipotle, it's just not, it doesn't happen. There's not the same trickle down.
No.
Food
But you could
trucks
eat here.
is where like, you know, like it's where hardworking, like more blue collar food people work. Food trucks are accessible to you. If you were anywhere near any of these people, you could go eat their food. And if you talk to them, there's a very good chance they make less money every year than you do. They are not aspiring, if they're successful in this particular thing, to do something that is not accessible to you. That's what I find so important about the show. That's what I find so fascinating about it. That's what I find so fascinating about these people. They're all so much closer to you than a lot of successful chefs on high-end food shows will ever be.
Yeah.
That and so, you know, that's what makes it interesting. It's a really great show. It's well worth watching. This season was rocky and weird, but I think it did test the limits of what the show can do, and the show stood up to it. So now we just kind of go on to the next season, and I encourage everybody to if they have food trucks in their area, which again, food trucks are tough to run. I come from a huge foodie city that simply just didn't have the municipal infrastructure or like will amongst, you know, a city council to support food trucks for like almost 2 decades after our food culture like hit took off. And so it's only been in the past few years we've had them, and it really is such tough work, but it's also the most accessible work. The most creative things that you can afford happen at food trucks.
Can I piggyback on that?
Come on.
I'm kind of a dick about every city that isn't named Asbury Park or Manhattan or LAX, the airport, not the city. And I just want to kind of comment in that regard. The first time I went to your city, I was literally floored that it was down from the burger to the waffle to the pasta to the Mexican food. Every food was the best food I'd ever had in my life. Like really, really, which is such a weird thing for me to say as like a New York City and like Asbury Park Boardwalk food junkie. And, you know, to feel that and hear you say that they can't support food trucks, which my strip malls with restaurants have food trucks in them.
Literally, yeah, the one with the lobster one. You're right. Yeah, I know which one you're thinking of.
So, you know, to hear that that's the case, it actually does sound to me like there are huge sections of this country that still don't understand the art of the food truck. So, you know, something about this season being all based in LA maybe got on my nerves a little bit.
Yeah, same here, big time.
Where was the fucking road race, guys? You know, for my sake, for my energy, for my interest, one of the things that I felt specifically was that this season, by being limited in just one city, kind of lost out on some of what made it special.
Yeah, I mean, that you don't just drive to a municipality and like variations on that same municipality, that the truck can take you anywhere. That is a little bit the point that was a little bit lost.
I feel like they mostly did it to let the vegans win, though. I feel like if they hadn't stuck to LA, they never would have had like we said that at literally the very beginning. We were like, maybe they're just sticking to LA to give the vegans a chance.
Yeah, I mean, it really did feel that way because the vegans did consistently well because LA is like the place. It's so funny. We're about to talk about Drag Race, and the funniest thing that ever happened.
I'm vegan.
He just met Bimini Von Boulash because we're getting into UK now. Bimini, I know you're watching. You're a queen. I love you so much. Happy people just don't kill their husbands. They don't. I don't even remember. Oh, yeah. So we're about to talk about Drag Race. The funniest thing that ever happened to me was the first time that the Work the World tour came to Portland. Nobody knew where they were. Nobody knew about Portland, and I did the meet and greet. It was the only time I've ever done a meet and greet, but I had just started watching Drag Race, and I loved all these people so much. I wanted to give them more money and meet them all. And I did meet Michelle Visage, and I talked to her, and she was so sweet, but she did say, like, I'm just, I'm really hungry, but I'm vegan and gluten-free, and I don't know where there is for me to eat. Like, she was like, I don't think there's anywhere for me to eat. Like, she just didn't know about Portland, Maine, incredible food city. I really do think it's the restaurant capital of the Northeast. And what was so funny was she was directly across the street from a vegan eatery that makes basically everything gluten-free, directly across the street from where she was performing. And had she but known, we could have absolutely made that happen for her. And it feels like sometimes Food Truck Road Race really would benefit from taking itself out into the world and showing people like the vast variety of foods that maybe are in their neighborhood. And LA is just such an easy place to be like vegan, gluten-free. It's there. Kevo, give it and then take us to Drag Race.
Well, and so many of these shows would benefit in so many ways from crossing over with each other. We kept talking when we were watching Secret Chef with how well it would fit with our favorite crime scene kitchen, especially something that is so on the road as Food Truck Road Trip. The fact that they could interact somehow with something like RuPaul's Drag Race or even Project Runway All-Stars, like all these things where like design us a new costume. Like, I don't know. There's so much crossover potential between all this crap that we love.
My first thought was they're in LA. Why are they not parking at a studio lot? I would love to see them park at the Drag Race lot. Like, just, hang out for a bit. But setting that aside, like, any studio lot, another reality TV show. There are so many places. They specifically are in LA. Go park
on the boat with lower decks.
Go drive to Sardinia.
Oh, below deck. Right.
Below deck.
Lower decks is in space. Below decks is in trouble.
You just
below deck is criminal.
About the crossover we most need.
Belower decks.
Belower decks.
Belower Torres.
Lower and belower. But yeah, I would actually really love to see this show.
Belower, I hardly know her.
I would love to see this show get a crossover. I would love to see Drag Race get more crossovers. It really does not do so enough. And I've sort of always wondered about some of the international versions because other production teams are in the mix. A lot of them, don't even start with me right now.
What if the truck's for Transformers? I'm gonna go.
I actually, honestly, you're the dumbest person I've ever met, and I think that's a brilliant.
Don't encourage him, Ali Galactic.
I think
don't do it.
Such a riot.
Don't laugh. Don't encourage him.
I always wonder if the international seasons might have a easier time due to, contracts and scheduling, doing some more crossovers. And I really wish we saw more Drag Race crossovers. This particular week of season 3 of Drag Race Down Under, we are about to hit a point where, like, when we talk about doing this show and recording, we're probably going to just dedicate. I mean, like tonight, we're dedicating much less time to Down Under than we are, because we're reaching this time where we've established who the players are. We've kind of hit some big notes, and now we just sort of knock them out one by one, unless there's a really big event. We'll talk about this one a little more than we would most by episode 3, because we had the first pass out and the fallout from the first pass out.
Oh my
but then
God.
after that, what did we really? I don't really even remember what we did this week.
No, it was a crazy week for us too, though. But yeah, I get you.
Yeah, I mean, Drag Race just really starts, and that's, the reason I brought up crossovers was because that would be a way to give you like an episode 4 or 5 with a little more happening and a little more spice to it.
I'm so sorry. Mike O'Malley called Mo and asked me to spill my guts. I need to weigh in. This episode started with boom.
And Rue with the fly swatters for no reason.
Rue with the fly swatters out of drag, judging a very obvious outcome. Read a menu, girl. You are phenomenal. You're fun. You're kind of sassy. I could maybe feel you could be. There are times you are aggressive or assertive will suffice. But, what you got to do must be very hard being a woman of color in the Down Under world. You make it very clear by you, I mean like the contestants across all of Down Under. Make it very clear whether they are people of color or they are white. They make it very clear that it is hard for the women of color to compete.
Yeah, Australia is a very weird. They've got all their own stuff going on.
Yeah, they don't need to censor early Family Guy, which is a problem. So, this episode was fine. It was kind of forgettable. Something I need to say, and we're rewatching UK. Kevo and I are watching it first time. TK and Jonah are rewatching it. The depths of depravity these incredible women are pushed to are sometimes icky. And I just feel like sometimes the challenges go horribly awry. Don't get me wrong. When they're like, Shangela, your challenge is to create a new low-pressure toilet that always flushes on the first try and uses less water than a thimble. Like, okay, that's insane. But sometimes they are sort of like, girls, your challenge is eat a lot of vomit.
No, it's never that. It's, oh, look, it's another musical. Will they be lip-syncing the musical or will they be singing live?
Okay, and in the case of some of these musicals, I stand by what I said. I said what I said.
And I think that actually, for as much as I have been feeling a lot like the gameplay of Project Runway is a lot sloppier in terms of who's in charge, who makes the rules, all of that. There is starting to be something I am observing that is exceptionally rote about Drag Race that seems to be the same thing every year, but with different girls.
Yeah.
And obviously there are some challenges that are iconic that you want to make sure that you are always getting in.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, it doesn't feel like they're making any big swings with the challenges that aren't those. It feels like they're just kind of doing whatever to get us to next week. We don't have the same unconventional challenges that you see on Project Runway that I think perhaps Drag Race, I feel like that's sort of what you're speaking to, Nico, that I think Drag Race could more benefit from.
Yeah. And, just to pivot for a minute to Project Runway.
Yeah.
This season has had a lot of first-time challenges. And, every time you go to a creative writing class and, guys, your assignment is write anything. Everybody's like, I can do this. And then they turn out a blank sheet of paper and they're like, I can't drive in a snowstorm. Right? Like, it's I call it whiteout seizure. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's always something like that. And that's sort of the nature of what happened here for a number of these designers who were like, design anything. Okay, panic. I'll design some panic. I just want to say that I have never felt so betrayed in my life as hearing the phrase, Kara-san, I'm so sorry you are out. I don't want to watch TV ever again. Kira-san, you are my hero, my idol. Girl, if I were you, I would change the price of shoes too.
We thought she was a lock to win.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I thought she was a lock for one of the top. I thought she was. Are they going to Fashion Week?
The finale, yeah. Whatever it is.
Yeah. A huge loss, but again, what I said at the time was like they picked such good contestants that no matter what, it was always going to be a huge loss. I really felt like Victor was a huge loss. That said, I felt like it was very clear that Victor didn't do the best that week. And it was just too far to do season track record. I thought Rami was a huge loss. The episode that he got eliminated, I felt he did the worst that week, but I was like, God, he's such a titan. What a huge loss. And just, he got a save, which fantastic.
Maybe we can rename him the Voyager.
Very glad that he's still here. But like the whole point of a really good All-Stars is, yeah, it's painful every week. This was one where I did feel like Kara-san was not the worst. I really did not feel like she was anything worse than safe. I felt like Brittany as a safe contestant was worse. And it's just tough because I don't think Brittany's bad. Is she on here?
She should be, isn't she?
I don't think Brittany is bad. She's actually.
She's not. That's so funny. On this image. I didn't make this.
No, I know.
I grabbed this from the internet. Where is she? Should be in this
the bottom middle. Yeah, bottom middle.
She's there in that, and then I know I have her.
Yeah.
Holy crap! I never even noticed that. What does that say?
Right?
That we've been using that image for like 3-4 weeks. I never
really
noticed Brittany's not
honestly, there. The fact that she's been here is weird. But she's done well on a bunch of challenges. I really came for her hard. I didn't like her personality, but she has done well a bunch of times. There have also been 2 or 3 times where I was like, I don't understand why she is not at least in the bottom.
It's Brittany, bitch.
It's Brittany, bitch. But it's Brittany 2007, bitch. What are you doing? I really didn't feel like she was safe this week. And I was really disappointed. Ultimately, it was very one of the things I will say to people, yes, Drag Race is gaslighting you. Yes, you can clearly see this person did really badly. And yeah, Michelle is about to say that she loved the look. Rue is about to say that this person is, the runner-up to the winner. Yeah, you are seeing the same thing we're all seeing. It's bad. There are times on Project Runway where I know that I'm in a really sleazy it might as well be kids gym tank top.
I'm in the room at work.
And their sweat shorts that I got from Uniqlo. I have no sense of fashion. So I really don't think that my opinion holds a ton of weight here. But there are times where I'm even you said really bad things about that look. And then you didn't say bad things about this look, and you're sending this look home. I really felt like with Prodigy, they were like, we hate this.
We literally think you might be a talentless rock.
And I don't think it looked good.
And all they said to Kara-san was, it's not really your best look. We don't love feathers. Thanks. That was it. I accidentally, because I was trying to look up to see if we knew when the finale would air yet, I saw out of the corner of my eye, knew what I probably saw, tried to pretend it wasn't because it felt so impossible, but I accidentally spoiled for myself that Kara-san was going to lose this week. But literally, right up until the elimination, I found it so impossible, just based on the editing and the way they presented the judges' feedback, that it would be impossible that they would send someone home that they were so soft on, that they were so kind to, that all they said was, it's not great, but we love you so much, so just work harder. And then home.
Took off the jacket, which I will say.
Oh, now it's gorgeous.
They've made very clear they don't like feathers. Kara-san, take a hint. Why did you put feathers on this thing? I want you to be here. I was rooting for you.
That was the most. Christian was like, this might be a risk. The judges might not like it. And Kara-san was like, I feel confident. And that in the workroom was the only other hint.
Yeah. But they really did say exactly that, like, just like, not our favorite. They took the jacket off. They were like, oh, I see it now. Wonderful, brilliant. Prodigy, they really were like, how are you still here if this is what you just made this week? I hate that you're war crimes.
And you're allowed to drive a car?
I mean, it really, they just seem so mad. They seem so angry. And then, so there are just a lot of times where I'm just like, am I being gaslit here? And it's different than in Drag Race, because like Drag Race so rarely is like, we love it, girl. You're in the bottom 2.
You did so good, idiot.
They often will be like, this is garbage. And what you're looking at is the future of fashion everywhere. And like a perfectly executed, like rhinestone by hand look. And other times you'll be like, that is literally just 2 legs cut into it. And they're like, this is everything, babe. And it's very gaslighting.
You've invented pizza.
Victor is also missing from this image, is what I've been sitting on for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's what I finally figured out.
Yeah.
That is why, that is the unevenness of it.
Yeah.
I feel like I would have noticed Victor first, but he went home too soon.
Yeah. Gone too soon, Victor. So anyway, 2 shows where fashion is important and gaslighting happens, just in different
Fascism
ways.
happens.
I better say 2 shows where fascism seems to be important.
We got our first lip sync at the start of the show. I keep wanting to call Ivory Glaze Holly Golightly because that's like the character. And I'm bummed that she left. But she's also like a sweet little white girl who didn't do that good. So I'm trying not to hype her up that much because like...
No, she's going to have a great career on Neighbors out of drag. She's going to do just fine.
I mean,
I like this t-shirt.
Yeah. Yes, t-shirt's very good. I feel like she could be on a Versus the World. They clearly, because they gave us immediately like I really thought she was getting Jinx Monsoon. I really thought it was, she's kind of shaky on her legs, but she's so charismatic and talented and sweet that at the finale she will have stood up for herself, and make it or not, she'll have been great. And Ashley Madison was she's a dark cunt who like serves us looks but can make stupid mistakes. Can she overcome those while not being such a bitch to Ivory Glaze? We'll find out. Ultimately, Ivory going home, I guess I like insofar as it destabilizes my expectations. But again, we're at a point where I just, unless we do really different things for challenges, I don't see, I kind of know what we're doing. It's not crazy exciting. I really would like it to be, can you build a time machine, random drag queen with a high school education? I think that's funny. I don't want to see them do another lip sync musical.
I've put in the flux capacitor.
Stop. That's
it
great.
Has to go 69 miles an hour.
Stop, because now you're just giving her the plot of the next musical, not a challenge to make a time machine.
So the flux capacitor is
Black to the Future 3. Why is it got to be black?
Stop it. She's going to steal these from you.
She's just going to steal that idea.
Stop watching this show.
Do the other thing we said. Do the other thing. Don't do this.
So I also just want to say, like, one of the cool things is, like, sometimes from these shows you follow some of the queens and, like, you get to know them a little bit better.
No, I'm going to take you off camera. No, it's
fine. No, a couple of the queens have really shown me in the last couple of weeks how cool they are. Anybody who's been following Shea Coulee heard her go toe-to-toe with a racist misogynist and pour coffee on him and just give absolutely no fucks. And I am certainly not here to revel in Pearl being messy, but I really want to say, Aquaria, what a beautiful job. You really tried to do something cool, even if you did at times maybe overstep for the quality of the Black community's sake. You actually said, I might be overstepping, and if I am, please tell me to stop. That's kind of amazing, girl. Fuck. Also, I followed Spanky Jackson, and they're amazing. But I really just want to say how cool it's been following so many of these queens, seeing their journeys, seeing who they are, whether it's from down under, the UK, or mainstream. I feel grateful for seeing these queens be queens.
The Pearl thing is wild. What's really crazy to me is she did one of the original.
Talk about the curse of the Black Pearl.
She did one of the original, not even the original, but she did a really good tan face that was not a black face when she did Big Ange for Snatch Game. And it is possible to darken your skin and make a reference that is not problematic. It is very, if I'm being generous, it's naive. If you're old enough, it's irresponsible to, without context, darken your skin, put on big lips, not name a character, and then say, like, why didn't you get it? And what, I think it was the Vixen, but somebody pointed out, like, you are darker than the coffee you're holding in this picture. Like, all things are possible, but we all have to be smart when we make references.
One that I definitely would absolutely let be contested from me that I feel like sort of feeds into what you're saying is on the Real O'Neills in the second season in their Halloween episode. The main character, whose name escapes me, but Noah Galvin, is Beyonce for Halloween and uses light bronzer. So it gives sort of a golden sheen, but it is not extremely darkening his already somewhat olive complexion. It is simply giving some amount of makeup illusion because he is doing drag, but it is not the absolutely darker brown than the person that it is doing the impression of that I feel Pearl very much was doing. It was a cartoonish level of brown.
And it's also like Pearl's biggest thing since Drag Race really has been the ongoing feud with RuPaul over RuPaul essentially not being nice enough to her. And again, I was talking about how I think things have really swung where when we first heard that story,
billionaires aren't nice to me either.
Yeah. Where we first heard that story, we were like, oh God, RuPaul was a real bitch to you. And then when we all really thought about it, when we also took time to hear like one of many responses where RuPaul said like, it's not even me being mean or nice. It is literally that we want, like, we all know now that the girls aren't really allowed to talk in the van. They're not allowed to talk unless the cameras are on. And is that weird? Sure. But it also is technically for the good of everyone, including the show. Because if in the van, you are as brilliant as we all are when we're sitting on the show talking, God forbid it wasn't there to be captured. And you didn't get that moment where you say the smartest thing and they can use that.
And they're not going to help you get that back. If you aren't sitting on what you feel is your best content to be on camera, no one's going to help you get better content on camera. It is your job to make sure you are getting your own screen time first and foremost. So if you don't want to take that opportunity, then you're not really here playing the reality game, I guess.
And I oop.
So yeah, was it a little heartless for RuPaul to hear that and say, like, nothing you say matters unless that camera's rolling? I don't believe she said that, but setting it aside, yeah, sure. But also, that could have been a moment where, because you were fucking lifeless and garbage, that could have been a moment where people saw that you weren't lifeless and garbage and said, wow, she clearly loves her idol so much that she stopped to talk to her. And I really love this person. So, for as much as I can understand how that would have sucked, I also have worked in enough film and TV sets and productions to know that, like, it's all heartless, but that doesn't have to be a bad thing. And that has been her big, like, fight in the media with RuPaul. And then to make this character that really could be, if you can't look at that picture, you took the picture. So if you took it and looked at it and didn't see how people would think, is that you reading the person that you notoriously have a fight with? I'm either very sorry that you're that stupid.
Swish, swish, bitch.
Or I think, you're an asshole. And that's where we are in the world.
Bunch of assholes.
What do we got for highlights? And
I think I'm just going to call it.
Okay.
It's 2:43.
All right.
On the timer clock, right? And so I think we're good. I think we've had an amazing episode. Oh, Kevo, you got a face. Oh.
This just in.
Oh no, Kevo, did your headphones die?
Oh no. Do you want to come in and hang with us?
Do you want to come in here? No.
Not a Dada.
Oh no. Okay, we're gonna call it.
Yeah.
Call it.
All I will say is that my highlight was going to be that we had an amazing time at FlameCon yesterday, and we are going to have a really fun time talking about there. Kevo, even without a voice, you got a heart, you got a presence. We had a blast at FlameCon. We had a really fun live Deal Breakers featuring Demanda Martini, an incredible drag queen.
Wait,
who,
Kevy?
Am I here?
Yeah!
She got it back. We had a blast at FlameCon. We did see our beloved Tori Sheehan there, and God bless her for attending our panel. We had so much fun, and we've got a bunch to talk about from that. Also, a bunch to talk about from the world of geek culture, queer and otherwise, and news that has come about in these last few days. So that was going to be my highlight, and that's what I'm excited that we're going to be talking about on Wednesday. And that's all I will say, and we can...
Yeah, my highlight is just that, our show hit a couple of snags. We got on late, but we had like an amazing episode about stuff we love. We ran over on time because we have such a fucking good time together.
We just love talking.
Our audience is incredible, and it's just such a good vibe.
Am I coming through still?
Yeah, totally.
No, it's that they turned off and turned back on, but didn't connect to StreamYard. But it was like Bluetooth disconnected, nothing, and then Bluetooth connected, battery full. Weirdest effing thing. But yes to all the gay stuff. My highlights this week would probably be High School Musical, the musical, the series, and Red, White, and Royal Blue. I want to do a huge queer as fuck broadcast where we can talk about. We should do 1 month, seriously. We should have a Pride broadcast per month where we talk about all the great queer stuff that's going on. This was wonderful. Met some great people. Looking forward to some really cool stuff next year. Looking forward to all the fun queer news that we have to talk about. Tori Sheehan will literally kill someone for the ability to talk about Red, White, and Royal Blue on our show. So we're gonna have to plan that around when Tori is available. She might literally slap me in the face if we talk about that and she's not on the broadcast.
No, we're doing it.
So yeah.
Well, then we got to stop this broadcast before we can talk about it. Kevin, where can everybody find you on the internet?
You can find me generally here. This is the most broadcasting. This is the most social media that I generally do. But other than that, you can find me attempting to do more anywhere at Kevoreally. That's KEVOREALLY. TK, Teak, where can everybody find you?
You can find me also attempting to do social media at TK Elemental. Really hoping we can all agree that X is garbage, and can we just do Blue Sky? I'll give you an invitation.
And I want to chime in. I want to chime in to speak up for a contributor, because the one thing I wanted to say about Food Truck Road Race is I know how much you and your partner Jake, Jake especially, has fallen in love with Food Truck Road Race. So I'm sure we will doing a very extensive series recap of Food Truck Road Race before the next season. So definitely keep tuned in for more of that with more of our contributors going forward. And until then, my captain, Nico Action. That's where everyone can find you, isn't it? Tell us all about your social media presence and what you do.
All right. You guys can check me out at Nico Action. It's NICOACTION.
And you know what? I think it's been a while since we've done a little bit of
and especially because we were just at FlameCon, where there were many copies of this out on tables getting sold, and other creators.
Not your own. Yep.
Now has never been a more important time to talk about.
Young Men in Love, super cool book I was asked to be a part of by the incredible Joe Glass, and I got to work with the amazing Matt Miner. It's been such an incredible opportunity to be part of this book, whether it's the GLAAD Award, the Gaming Award, or the Ringo nomination. A Ringo nomination!
And I think there's another nomination that just came up. I gotta find it. We'll post it on our socials when we're
update this. Oh my god.
The Ringos aren't even the best drummer in the Beatles. So, anyway, I'm very grateful. But more than anything, I'm excited about the future of the show. I can't wait to talk comics with these incredible human beings on Wednesday. will be airing Saturday. We'll be airing our Deal Breakers panel from this past Saturday. It's going to be super cool. And then Sunday back with more TV you love. And that's how we do it. Right? Yes, rad shit indeed.
Rad shit, Ali Galactic. And we're looking forward to having you here on this stuff. We're looking forward to having contributor Tori. We're looking forward to having all sorts of our friends on all of the things that we are doing. We love being the action pack. We love having you folks here. And
this broadcast was meant to end at 8, so we're gonna snip it like a moil. I hope everybody
it's gonna
has
be 4 hours
night.
by December.
God. All right. So until next time, stay strong, stay brave, evolve daily, and we'll see ya.
Bye.